You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line.
Do not forget. Expect us.
This is a message to all supporters. A message to all freedom fighters, to all dissenters, to all forgotten. A call to all intellectuals, to all journalists. A call to all freethinkers. A call for intelligence. This is a call to all poets. A call to the strong and the weak. A call to all young people. To the wise, to the astucious. We want you to join us. We are on the streets of Tokyo. In the skyscrapers of New York. In the lanes of Paris. In the cellars of Munich. On Moscow's icy places. On the cobbled streets of Dublin. This is a call to all people. To the youth. Join us in the fight for freedom of information. Search for us, and you will find us. We are among you. We are you. Everyone you speak with can be a member of Anonymous. We have no leaders, only an orientation. We have no targets, only results. You cannot stop us, because we are an idea. We cannot be eliminated, because we are invisible. If you try to mock us, we will mock ourselves. If you try to slander us, we will accept the defamation. We are the king's gestures with daggers. We are the dancing bear which tears to pieces the laughing mob. We are anonymous. We are a legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us, just as we expect you.
councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
I'm turning on my mic this time. All right. And we are live with Anonymous Bites Back, episode 142. We are back. I do apologize to our... I don't know. I hope that's water.
Yeah.
And I do apologize to our viewers. Last week, I think we might have been censored on YouTube again. We have an episode that was trash talking social media as usual, and it's been stuck in processing. So if you saw it pop up in the last 30 minutes, it's because we re-uploaded our old episode, but this one is a live one. But with further ado, we have our guest, Elizabeth. You want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Elizabeth Vos. I'm editor-in-chief and co-founder of Disobedient Media. I write about everything from politics to human trafficking networks, basically anything that is not covered when it should be by establishment media or that is reported incorrectly. So especially topics like Russiagate, for example, and WikiLeaks, of course.
I got you. Terrence. Terrence, are you here? Terrence? Maybe not. So yeah, I was reading, a lot of stuff on WikiLeaks. What is your role, affiliated with WikiLeaks?
I'm in no way affiliated in any official or non-official capacity with WikiLeaks. What I have done is I sort of co-founded the Unity 4J vigils with Susie Dawson just after Julian Assange was gagged in late March last year. So we sort of spontaneously participated in the initial Reconnect Julian vigil on the day that he was gagged. Following that, about once a month, we did a Unity 4J vigil, which then led to the Unity 4J Discord server and all sorts of other things. So some people have seen me as somehow associated with WikiLeaks because of that support that Susie and I showed for them in that regard, but I'm not officially, associated with them. I just supported them. And the reason that I supported them is because I'm an independent journalist, and all of the stories that we report on a huge array of subjects are strengthened immeasurably by the primary source material that WikiLeaks publishes. So without WikiLeaks, independent media couldn't exist as the flourishing niche that it is without them. So we owe them everything, and so we owe them our unwavering support, honestly. And I think the fact is that Julian is basically a lightning rod for all of us as independent media, because he is the one suffering for the primary source material he's provided that we benefit from. So,
well, it's not only just that; it's the fact that independent journalists can be exactly in the same spot that Julian's in.
Exactly. Yes. Completely.
Well, and the word independent. So, I mean, we're really talking about not controlled. So, it is as sad as it sounds, corporate media just means that your media that the government uses as propaganda. If you're not being used as propaganda, you're independent media. You're not playing the stories they want. You're not talking about the things. You're exposing things that they don't want people to know about. I think it's important to frame it in what the reality of what it is. The narrative that they had been spinning, especially with the election and politicians, is not the truth. And anytime that's let out, they try to punish the people that are informing the public.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what they do. And you saw that a lot during the 2016 election. You saw all this negative coverage of Trump, and they tried to ignore the leaks. And it's funny because CNN actually said it's illegal to view we want to remind you that it's illegal to view these leaks, and you're getting the information from us.
Yeah, it's illegal to get information. I'm at I don't know how 34 you have to be to say it's illegal for you to learn this.
Absolutely.
Right.
That was such an insane video.
It was.
No, yeah, I do remember that exactly. That was kind of like my, another the light bulb went on, when CNN said that it was illegal to look at WikiLeaks, and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Definitely.
Well, if that doesn't immediately make you not want to go and look at whatever they tell you not to, okay, guys, nobody look at this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I mean, and that's as we founded Disobedient Media in January of 2017. So that entire debacle into late 2016 was literally what inspired us to do that, because we saw like the video you're mentioning, we saw how bad the corporate media was, screwing the story up. And it seemed really obviously intentionally. I mean, right up until the actual eve of the election, with the New York Times saying that, Hillary has a 90% chance to win, just completely wrong on so many fronts. So yeah, 2016 was definitely an important year for a lot of people.
Well, speaking about WikiLeaks, if you look in the WikiLeaks Stratford files and you look up Juan Guaido, the guy in Venezuela, you'll actually find him in Stratford files under the People's Will Party. So Stratford was a key advisor of Juan Guaido. And you have the corporate media ignoring this. They're not mentioning it. They're not doing anything. It's just insane. It's insane what's happening right now with this whole Venezuela situation. You have corporate media endorsing a candidate who called himself president. It's just like, oh god.
Yeah, but at the same time, I can't ever say his name. The asshole, the bus driver.
Maduro.
The bus
I
driver,
know. I know.
Yeah, he blocked foreign aid which was not only from the U.S. That's inaccurate. It actually came from a bunch of different places. But he did block a blockade on the Colombian-Venezuela border. Yeah.
Wow. And I think going back to that Stratford issue, I think that shows that the value of WikiLeaks, in a sense,
absolutely,
where when they published those, nobody could have known that would be relevant. But there's so much in WikiLeaks that becomes relevant down the road that's another reason it's so incredible, for sure.
Yeah, but that shows that they have been trying to get in Venezuela since at least 2010. It's
no doubt.
It's crazy because now they're starting to ramp it up. Last year,
it's almost an immediate response, right? So we're leaving, Syria. We obviously, or Syria and Iraq. We obviously have to start something somewhere else. It's like when you push on a deflated balloon and it pops out the other side.
But this is before Trump even withdrew from Syria and all that.
Oh, no,
this is last year in 2018 in February. There was a secret meeting between the U.S. South Command leader and Colombian officials in Colombia, and they were discussing regime change. And then in September of last year, they were caught, and actually, it's funny. The New York Times reported on it. They actually reported on something because they haven't reported on this type of stuff in so long. They're caught on Trump constantly, anything Trump does. I remember that there was an article about Trump going to a restaurant and eating steak or something I remember seeing something like that. But the point being is, the New York Times actually reported on it, how the Trump administration was, they were talking to people in Venezuela who were deflecting, and they were trying to cause a coup-op. And this is on the record in the mainstream media. But then they say, of course, in the article, they say that they decided not to go through with it.
Yeah, it's really interesting when the media kind of shoots itself in the foot unintentionally by publishing some correct facts that become relevant later.
Oh yeah,
right. Yeah,
the truth is always causing them problems.
Definitely.
Yeah, but Elizabeth, let's talk about Joseph Mifsud and his connection to Robert Mueller.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, I believe it was about a few weeks ago. We've published an article in which we sort of interviewed Chris Blackburn and talked about more of his research. And the reason, Disobedient Media has covered his research before. We were the first outlet to break the news that Mifsud was most likely had strong connections to UK intelligence. And the reason that we picked up on that was because Julian Assange, returning to WikiLeaks, Assange had published a thread questioning Mifsud and his ties to UK intelligence, to Saudi Arabia, and some other entities. And that was just a few days before Ecuador silenced him. So we took a look at that thread. We researched it ourselves. We published an article called "All Russiagate Roads Lead to London," and we then got in touch with Chris Blackburn, whose research sort of seemed to have been a source for Assange's thread. And we then published a few interviews with him. So I'm just trying to give some context to this article that we've published recently on Mueller. So we're continuing that kind of like work covering Chris Blackburn's research. And he basically showed us that there are a number of individuals that one specifically is on Mueller's team. Another worked with Mueller on some 9/11 cases. And both of them have direct ties to Joseph Mifsud and the London Centre for International Law Practice, or the LCILP, and other proxy networks that have strong connections to UK intelligence as well. There's also a figure from the FBI who appeared at one of the LCILP functions and events as well. So the idea that Mifsud was some sort of shadowy Russian agent that nobody knew about, in light of this research, is absolutely ridiculous. And the idea, the fact that Mueller basically through his own team has ties to Mifsud and Mifsud's organizations shows just how small of a world this sort of intelligence community is. And it really, I do think that it puts the nail in the coffin of Russiagate as far as the Russia collusion narrative, the Trump-Russia collusion narrative.
Well, especially since it came from UK intelligence Christopher Steele.
Exactly. Yes.
I just want to kind of be off topic, but I did catch the New York Times trying to correlate WikiLeaks to Russia. You guys aware of that?
Oh, in a way, was it in a way that was different to the last 2 years of them doing that?
Yeah, it's basically the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like, it's one of every story they come out with. They try to push, that there's some sort of, nefarious political. Puppetry at work, right? That, every time that WikiLeaks publishes something, they immediately go to, well, it was done for the Russian government, it was done for this government, it was done for this reason, never to publish the truth, which is what they're trying to hide.
Yeah, well, ClimateGate, the original ClimateGate emails, Assange himself said that the media was trying to blame him for being connected to Russia back then. I don't know if you knew that or not.
It's totally insane, and it's ridiculous because WikiLeaks has published leaks about Russia that are not positive for the Kremlin. So the idea that there's some sort of like Russian proxy is just, it's absurd. And it's really interesting to see corporate media push that narrative so hard for so long when there's literally no evidence whatsoever that WikiLeaks coordinated with any state, much less Russia. And there's no evidence that the Trump campaign coordinated with Russia. The whole thing is just completely empty. So, and I think it is clear to most people that have been thinking critically for the last few years that not only is Russiagate a complete farce, but it's also a really empty deflection from the rigging that happened in the 2016 Democratic primary. And the fact that it was exposed by WikiLeaks. That's why, we've had this crusade against them for the last couple of years.
Yeah, I definitely think that it's used as a scapegoat for a lot of things, as a distraction from a lot of the corruption that's going on. As long as people are focused on the Russia investigation, which at this point looks like it could go on forever. Right?
Really? Yeah, it's immortal at this point.
Yeah, there is no end. I think it's interesting. We spent, 3 months and a couple $1 million to look into the entire 9/11 investigation, uncovering a international terrorist organization. And we're 2 years into the Mueller investigation and still nothing.
Right. Exactly. And I think that, with especially like the Roger Stone arrest recently, that was total theater from beginning to end. But I mean,
that was hilarious.
Most of his entire career is political theater, so I wasn't really surprised at that one. But it was ridiculous.
It was funny because there was nothing there, and the funnier thing is that CNN had the basically been given directives to be there because they were there, and then like you said, it was political theater because they were there to film it, so everybody could see it. and make a big deal out of it when it was really nothing. There's nothing in that indictment that, you know, is any type of value. It's just him lying. That's it. And the fact that they got him for lying in front of Congress, I want to see Michael Hayden indicted. I want to see Bush indicted. I want to see Dick Cheney indicted. All these people who've lied in front of Congress, you know, I want to see them indicted right next to Roger Stone. Otherwise, guess what? Our political system is a complete hypocrisy.
It really is.
It will never happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where look, political games are played and all of that, but there's this illusion that somehow it's just, right? When you're 100% correct when you look at, we're talking about real deal war criminals. You lied to the American people and led to the deaths of millions of people, right? Destabilized, you know, arguably the entire fucking world, and you're allowed to paint in Texas, right? Where the absolute hypocrisy and some of the horrible things that have been done it's mind blowing. It's mind blowing.
Well, in Michael Hayden's case, he lied about surveillance, and then he lied about torture to the Committee on Torture about the CIA's torture programs and stuff like that. So
Enhanced interrogation. We're not calling it torture anymore.
Right, and the only person that was ever prosecuted about that was the whistleblower who exposed it.
John Karaku, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. And then the funny thing is, or not funny, but the most ironic thing is that he was tortured again. After he exposed torture, he was tortured again.
Oh, I would imagine right away.
Oh, yeah. It's just like, oh, you want to expose our torture? Well, we got a new program for you.
Wow.
It's absolutely insane.
Definitely.
Well, I mean,
Wait, when you...
Yeah,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
It's just, you know, when you're looking in comparison to the corporate media, look, we're discussing this like openly, right? The things that we're talking about are not hidden, are not into conspiracies. This is well-known common knowledge. And the corporate media legitimately acts like they have no idea that it's going on, what it's about. They can talk about the 9/11 memorial nonstop every year, but then never mention the illegality of the war, the games, none of it. It's crazy. And that goes on, you know, climate change, the election, fuck, Bernie Sanders. You would have lifelong journalists act like they had never heard of the longest standing senator in the American government. Right? Like they would act like they had never heard of this guy. Millions of people like marching and organizing, and they would give this complaint, Bernie who?
Yeah, I vividly remember that, and I also remember how much free airtime was given to Donald Trump at the same time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They gave Hillary and Trump all this free airtime.
Yeah, and you know that it was because Hillary wanted Trump to be her opponent because she thought he would be easy enough to beat. So it's such a sad it's such an indictment of Hillary Clinton that she.
Well, she probably thought it was going to be easy to beat because she was going to rig the election, like she proposed rigging Pakistan's Pakistan. I think it was Pakistan. Pakistan's election.
Possibly, yeah.
Because if she rigged the primary, like I documented, she rigged the whole entire primary. Against Bernie, oh my God, there was so much election fraud there. Like, there was people who were dead who voted. There were people who had their voting registrations switched. It was horrible. It was just absolute chaos for election
Well,
fraud.
and you had 200,000 voters purged from the electoral rolls in New York City. 200,000. I mean, it's absolutely astounding and ridiculous. And then in the DNC fraud lawsuit, you have the counsel for the DNC claiming that not only are they allowed to, go into back rooms and smoke cigars and pick their nominees, but they also argued that rigging the election is protected by the First Amendment. So, yeah.
What? Rigging the election is protected by the First Amendment?
They actually argued that, yeah.
They stated that they're a private company. They don't really have to abide by any sort of rules. They can pick whoever they want. It's just a complete farce.
Wow, with that kind of logic, I guess I can kind of do whatever I want, right?
I mean, but the thing, you can't mention it. You can't talk about it. You can't even, you have to act like it never happened if you're the corporate media.
It's
Absolutely.
insane. It's absolutely insane. You have the corporate media completely ignoring during the election. You had the corporate media completely ignoring all this election fraud that was ongoing. The only real corporate media that I saw publish anything was Huffington Post, where they said, there's a lot of election fraud going on, and it's all in favor of Hillary Clinton. Isn't that
And
a little weird?
So hysterically either funny or sad or maddening is the fact that then the corporate media turns around and goes red in the face bellowing about Russian interference in our elections when they don't give even a slight damn about election integrity, like real election integrity issues.
Let's talk about how the DHS tried to hack into several states. Let's talk about that. And then let's talk about how the DHS said before they wanted to protect the election integrity. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I doubt we're going to hear about that on Morning Joe, for sure.
And then to throw even more, fuel on the fire, let's talk about how the DHS was hacked by a 16-year-old.
I didn't hear about that one.
Doesn't surprise me.
Oh, come on. Yeah, you did. You had to have heard about that.
Wasn't it like a hacking expo or convention or something where they...
No.
Okay, this is a different story then.
Yeah,
I haven't heard this either.
This is just a regular kid.
Let me guess, was the
Wow.
password...
Regular
was the password
16-year-old kid.
Wow.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is going to be harder. I mean, number one, the way that Moore's law, just the movement of technology, and it's got to be harder and harder to find people that support what they're doing. If you're trying to recruit hackers, where are you going to recruit hackers from that won't immediately give you the finger?
Well, they actually do recruit on HackerOne. The DoD does have a recruiting page where they do have really good hackers that recruited over there.
They're running out though. I mean, there's people who are not going to support it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say really good. I mean, they're well paid. When you build the systems that are hacked by a 16-year-old kid, I can't say that you're a great hacker. He hacked into he hacked into the DHS's website and defaced it, and then he also hacked into whoever the secretary of DHS was. He hacked into his email account.
Jesus.
done it without a program.
Maybe not. I don't know. He could have brute forced it. I have no idea.
Well, and it's not just the ability to hack into the election, like the voting machines. It's also the fact that the voting machines are completely manipulative. They're really, really easy to manipulate. We know that. And if our election officials, if our authorities, and if our press wanted actual election integrity, which of course they don't, they would just be enforcing paper ballots across the country. They would be hand counting them in public. That's not what happens because they do not actually care about election integrity at all.
Well, yeah,
if they care about election integrity, go ahead.
It's actually so easy to hack those things. I watched a special where a person used a man in the middle, like by using a USB stick, just attached to the back of the voting machine, and it instantly gave them administrative access to that machine. It only took about 3 minutes to set up.
Yeah, it's so easy to hack those things.
And they're from what Tim Canova has said often, as a result of his two campaigns against Debbie Wasserman Schultz that were both horrendously rigged. He said that it's that the voting machines have like cellular modems, which means they're even more vulnerable. But also, he says that they're proprietary, so that means that the public can't inspect them, which is ridiculous. That should be completely illegal. So
that's why we need to move everything to the blockchain. That's exactly move all the voting to the blockchain, because guess what? With blockchain and nodes all around, you aren't rigging that. That's not going to happen.
Well, yeah, the only secure system I ever said is no system, because nothing is secure.
Well, can you hack Can you hack a blockchain? You would have to hack every single node at the same time.
I haven't heard of hacking blockchain, but what I have heard of people altering the actual code, but it's like weird stuff. You know, people drawing assy pictures and destroying some of the chain, but that's about it.
Yeah, but it's not permanent because the other parts of the chain don't validate it, and then it gets thrown out.
Yeah.
Well, another thing too is that, just returning like to what we were saying about the fact that you know, Hillary, or at least the DNC, definitely sort of I guess you could say just outright rigged the Democratic, you know, nomination process in 2016. But the thing is that I think another thing that added to Trump winning in the general election was the fact that it might be easier to rig your own process rather than like across the board, across the country, all of the different precincts, all of the different areas you'd have to coordinate to rig a general, you know, presidential election. I think it makes it harder for them to get away with that, where it's much easier when it's their own primary system.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, some of the election systems were provided by George Soros's Open Society Foundation. Just to put that out there for everybody.
Didn't I read up that one of them was actually a Venezuelan company that made some of this stuff?
I wouldn't be surprised at this point.
Yeah.
Is there like a corruption R-Us or like a shopping center that you go to get all your corrupt needs handled? Like where are we not looking in the right place?
Yeah, it's called the CIA.
Your one-stop shop for corruption. Need drugs, guns, corrupt election systems? We've got you covered.
Yeah. Maybe don't mind that airplane that crashed with a bunch of cocaine in it.
Oh,
Why
I'm
not?
sure cleaning up to clean that up.
I'll help.
Where was you say that? We need to check, make sure there wasn't any survivors. Better this kind of thing.
Oh God.
No. Regarding WikiLeaks, you know what I've seen over the last year is a switch in you know, demonizing WikiLeaks. I mean, there's always been demonizing against WikiLeaks, but I've also seen a lot more negative attention towards WikiLeaks, and so much so that what I'm starting to see as a pattern is Julian is kind of dying out of the media. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you mean like, for example, he's not supported in the press, obviously,
Exactly.
the way that WikiLeaks was back in, you know, the era where they were publishing like the collateral murder and that type of thing. I think that's just because of the fact that their publications in 2016 hurt a Democrat. But I also think that, you know, the CIA has admitted that WikiLeaks and Assange are a huge high priority target. So it would be ridiculous to not assume that there is a huge amount of effort, a huge amount of resources put into swaying public opinion against WikiLeaks and building a false consensus, a false sense of consensus against WikiLeaks as well. So I think there are so many different, you know, facets of the attacks against Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. Whether you want to talk about the you know, misreporting of WikiLeaks in the press, where they still describe him as having been charged with rape and that never happened, whether it's, you know, the false accusations about being connected with Russia, on and on and on. There's the false reporting. There's, you know, entire operations probably dedicated to, you know, character assassination on social media. It's just endless. So I think when you ask, like, well, you know, why or how has WikiLeaks, you know, kind of you know, like died out within the media, it's because the CIA has dedicated a huge amount of resources to doing exactly that.
Well, in regards of press making mistakes, I'm convinced that some people just copy paste other people's work and other people just type blind.
Yeah.
Did you see that interview between Joe Rogan and a New York Times columnist? It was a complete disaster.
Oh yeah,
that's an example of that. It was incredible.
I didn't hear anything about that.
Oh, you have to go watch it for real.
You're missing out. But what it really shows the way that that they are literally just parrots and sycophants. They don't have an ounce of critical thinking. It's been beaten out of them, and they can't even define the words they're using, much less you know, back up their arguments. It's absolutely astounding.
No, they just use Grammarly. That's all.
Exactly.
No, it was sad because she like threw out some terms and then.
And he's just like, hey, you know, what does that mean? And
oh yeah, he's being so polite. Yeah.
But the thing is, she did. What really like bothered me for her was that she didn't even have the confidence in herself to just throw out a guess.
Not at all.
No, just throw out a guess.
Total parrot. Yes.
And so she couldn't even rely on her own thinking enough to describe a word she used. She had to go to an authority, which in this case was Google, through Jamie. So she was, and that's like that's so above the level that I even expected from somebody at the New York Times.
One of those things, Joe Rogan is really great at being able to play like he innocently doesn't know what you're talking about, and he does. Which is what made that so, you know what I mean, so poignant.
Yeah.
The difference, and you're supposed to be professional journalists.
Exactly. And he wasn't, like attacking her or angry. He just asked some really gentle questions. And I think he would have been shocked that she couldn't answer because, I mean, even if you don't know the exact definition of a word, you can give what your meaning for what you're trying to say without, there's nothing wrong with doing that. And she couldn't do it. And I think that's really a symptom of the it's the groupthink mental disease that exists in the establishment, I think.
And then when she researched an article and pulled that up that had no bearing on really what was being said, oh man, I was just that was hilarious. It really was.
She could have just said that, my editor put the word in there.
Yes.
Could have just said that. I mean,
you'll have to watch it, man. You really will.
I said it. That's not exactly like free-thinking, hard-hitting journalism. When you're in, even here, when you're in an interview, you're expected to bring up the things that people want to hear, not regurgitate what other people have said or what you've been told to say.
Exactly. And I think it's such an indictment of the U.S. Education system too that this is the type of non-critical thinking that is produced that gets you a job at the New York Times. That is very, very sad.
Yeah,
Really?
it's like the level of journalism I'm seeing is like stuff that like copy paste operations. That's the kind of level I'm seeing, and nobody really does any real fact checking or they're doing all their research from their laptop instead of going out there and seeing what's really going on.
Well, you can see how a lot of stories are portrayed. They're not them like, this isn't breaking news. They're showing a video or a phone video of what's going on, not them actually going out and breaking the story. Somebody with their cell phone out broke the story.
What's going on with all these people getting laid off at some of these media places? They look like they're
BuzzFeed and Vice are laying off people. I mean, Vice.
They're moving to AI to write the article.
You got it.
Honestly, BuzzFeed,
it's not really that far out.
BuzzFeed was an overbloated media source, and this is not the first time that well, I mean, this is the biggest layoff that they've had, but other people have left on their own to pursue their own adventures. But as far as Vice is concerned, I don't like Vice has some good stuff, but a lot of it's just garbage,
I think it's interesting that BuzzFeed, in my opinion, is going the way of Cracked.com, if any of you guys remember that site. I just feel like BuzzFeed has kind of been a fad that's kind of gone out of fashion now, and I think that's part of the reason that they laid off so many people. But with all of the other media giants kind of laying off so many workers as well, with that taken into account, I think it's really a symptom of the fact that, or the way in which the whole public is just en masse abandoning establishment media, and they're just losing market share. And that's really great for independent sources, but for the journalists that work at those corporate media institutions, it's not obviously not profitable and not good.
Oh,
I can't say that I'm sorry for them, but it's still, I mean, I don't wish joblessness on anyone, but I think that it shows the unpopularity of these, state-sponsored sycophants. Basically.
Well, if you look at BuzzFeed, they started firing people right after that whole thing where their journalist, air quotes, their journalist published that whole thing about Trump's lawyer and Trump, where he said that Trump and his lawyer colluded with some deal in Russia or something like that, and it was a totally fake story. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
forget which one that it is. So they came out with the story, and they pretty much stuck by their guns that it wasn't a false story, is what they've done, which makes them even harder.
Yeah.
But, God, it's like a once a week thing. I really forget exactly which one it was, but they were like the first ones to break this story, and then couldn't just say, hey, we had to get it out in case it was true. Like, they refused to roll it back either.
Well, the reporter was actually connected to another fake story where he said that Karl Rove was going to get arrested years ago.
I would pay so much money to see that. Like, whoever they called to get there to be for Stone's arrest, please call me when you go to arrest one of those guys.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, seriously. Call me when you actually go arrest Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton for the slush fund that is the Clinton Foundation.
Oh my God, me and a bunch of Haitians will be eating jerk. Like, oh my God, are you kidding me? They will never arrest them, but
unfortunately,
a lot of wishful thinking.
Yeah, more wishful thinking. Like,
I'm surprised the whistleblowers of the Clinton Foundation haven't had a sudden accident by now.
Sewer gas.
No, I've actually heard that they're under protection, believe it or not. So who knows what's going to happen from here out? I have no idea. I could be surprised, and all of a sudden they're arrested.
Well, when you have so much dirt on people, you always have that leverage and advantage that makes you above the law.
Well, speaking of that, actually, at Dispute Media today, we published an article talking about the way in which the Department of Justice seems to have protected Brenda Snipes and W. Osman Schultz. So it's kind of a timely topic.
They've protected so many people; it's insane.
Definitely.
Like
on CNN, she doesn't go away. Like, it's not just that what you did was like that whole sham election was dirty. Not only did you cheat, but you lost and cheated. And the people that cheated keep on popping back up, and there's no remorse for it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, they're totally shameless, completely.
They're almost obligated to just walk the fuck away, But no, they pop up as a expert on this or that when you're really just an expert on losing an election.
I mean, even like The Nation published an article after the State of the Union address, basically saying, "Oh, in a matchup between Trump and Bernie would win," and it's like, no shit. Yeah. He would have won last time if Hillary hadn't cheated him. So, I mean, it's ridiculous. It's collective amnesia, at least when it comes to the establishment press.
I really honestly believe that a lot of because I know how the establishment media works. So I believe that a lot of these journalists, air quotes, I believe a lot of them really do want to publish some things, but then their editors and their boards say no. And a lot of it, like, for instance, anything fraud having to do with Goldman Sachs, like I'm completely surprised that the 1MDB scandal is in the media. A lot of that is they're told not to publish. Like, that's happened multiple times.
Yeah, and even if they do publish, they a lot of times, like, the title will be changed incorrectly, like to misrepresent the contents of the article. I mean, there's all sorts of shenanigans that happens in that situation.
You look at things like the Panama Papers. It's not that they don't know about them. Everybody doesn't know about them. It's not released, but it gets no real coverage beyond that. It's not
true.
If they're going to pay, $100,000 for a story to be pushed, it's a celebrity news. It's Donald Trump's tan news. It's not, hey, how come we're not finding out where these trillions of hidden dollars are?
Yeah, I remember when the Panama Papers, or what was the other one that was published? There was the Panama Papers, and there was something else. I remember when they were published, and I remember that as soon as they were published, there was a fire in the basement of the IRS in New York City, and the press, the mainstream press, didn't say anything about it. They did not say anything about it.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's like, there was a freaking fire in the Internal Revenue Service, and you didn't, right after there was a publication of all of these Americans that were basically accused of embezzling funds in offshore accounts, and you don't say anything about it when the IRS is on fire. Like, that's not a coincidence.
Yeah, but it is also pretty weird, right? Because you would think that with all this dropping market share and stuff, that there would be at least like one or two like running with it. Like, if they want to have market share, why are there not? Why isn't there like one outlet or something running with it, and they will get like all the market share? Is that
because it's probably because they don't earn enough revenue from actual readership. So it versus corporates and establishment and
bingo
sponsorship. So they are as far as their profit is concerned, their motive is more to obey their masters than it is to actually write a bombshell story.
Yeah. Bingo. Yeah, if you watch the movie Anchorman 2, that right there is what's going on with our media. And you might laugh about it, but within the whole entire story of Anchorman 2 was basically there was a corrupt company, and they wouldn't cover the story on that corrupt company. And he seeks to expose it in the movie. That movie is completely accurate to what our media is.
Like Jimmy George did a great segment, I think it was maybe a year and a half ago, about the way that Jeff Bezos, who owns the Washington Post and has a CIA contract with Amazon, how Bezos basically has ordered that they can't, at the Washington Post, they can't criticize or embarrass their corporate sponsors. So I believe one writer with Washington Post basically went against that, and he was really either reprimanded or fired, and it was completely unfair. So then he went to another news outlet and published an article about that censorship at the Washington Post. And I think that is an example of what we're talking about, where it's, don't you dare say anything about our corporate overlords at all.
Don't you dare say anything about Goldman Sachs Bain Capital. They are funding us.
Exactly.
Yep.
Just a reminder that our last episode was censored again, and
that's not surprising.
Oh yeah, Mark, you want to promote our new outlet just real quick?
Oh yeah, I also, if any of you are on Facebook, I'm not there, but I noticed that it's again going against the community standards to post the show there. So you get all kind of reports that it's impossible to share our show on Facebook again. But so if anyone wants to help, please share it around on there.
Well,
and yeah. For this show, we also have something new. We actually started our Rabbit broadcast. Our URL is rabbit/ABB live show. So that is rabb.it/ABB live show. You can join the Rabbit group there, and then you can watch the show together, and you can also browse a little about what we're talking about. Whenever we mention something on air, I'll try to open it in there, and then we can discuss it there directly. It's kind of like an interactive show kind of thing. So that is rabbit/ABB live show. Okay, sorry.
It's okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we should have done that at the beginning. I forgot. So speaking of Julian, just want to get back on topic. Now there was this talk about the Geneva asylum options. What do you think about that?
I'm not sure what to make of that. I think it's really positive that even if it's a small location, that they're standing up in solidarity with Assange. I'm not sure if it's a feasible option. I mean, the problem is that if he leaves the embassy at all, he will be arrested by UK police, and he will probably then be extradited to the US. So I think that it's unlikely that he could actually, leave the embassy and get to Switzerland. But I think that it's still really positive that the Swiss have sort of stood up for Julian Assange, at least just in solidarity.
Yeah,
it embarrasses the UK, and that's good.
Yeah, because I've always had this we've had this talk several times in the show, because what do they say that political what is it, cars and airplanes and helicopters that are owned by an embassy are considered neutral, like their own little country, but I don't know if the UK would abide by that. France didn't.
I doubt it.
Yeah.
I very much doubt it.
Yeah, those vehicles are supposed to be, just as
it's like a piece of another country, technically.
Right. They're supposed to have the same authority as the ambassadors and stuff do. You can't just go and seize them or stop them or anything, really.
Did they knock down? Not down as in like shoot down, but force down a plane already, thinking that he was on it in Switzerland?
Oh, I think it happened in France, right? Or was I wrong?
I'm not sure, but I do know that there has been a photograph of one of the clipboards that one of the police had outside of the embassy in the UK, and they basically it showed that they were going to ignore diplomatic duffel bags, diplomatic transportation. That no matter what happened, if he came out, they were going to arrest him. And I know that the Ecuadorian government at one point tried to extend diplomatic status to Assange, because if you're a diplomat, you have diplomatic immunity, so they wouldn't be able to arrest him. But the UK just said, "Oh, we're going to ignore that," forgetting the fact that that's contrary to international law, and they can't just ignore diplomatic, status. But they don't care. They just did it anyway.
Oh,
they'll break the law
as they go. They change them as they go, fit them.
Yeah, but if anybody else ignores the rules, then they're asking for a coup and an invasion. So,
well, what's happening now in the UK is pretty interesting, honestly. I don't know if you saw or not. Nigel Farage?
Farage? Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
Farage, yeah. Nigel Farage. He just came out recently and said that there was a whistleblower who said that the EU Commission has not been keeping valid documents on their spending. And they've just been basically throwing around numbers.
Wow. I haven't read that story, but that's incredible sounding.
Yeah, I'm working on that right now. But as part of my Wall Street fraud series, but
right.
Yeah, but so basically the EU Commission, and this happened before too in 1999. Nigel says, so he says that in 1999 the entire EU Commission was indicted because they couldn't come up with papers basically showing all of their spending. So this is happening again. It's just interesting to see all the corruption that's going on without any type of recourse or consequence.
Definitely.
Well, it's a lesson on how not to turn over your sovereignty to unelected bureaucrats. They should have known better. They should know their own history.
Yeah, no, for sure. But in the case of the UK was signed into the EU by Ted Heath, supposedly under blackmail. I looked into it a little bit. There's a little bit of evidence there, but it's not a lot. But Ted Heath was involved with the whole UK pedo rings, and he may have been blackmailed by his obsession with little boys. Cringe.
Well, that's national security in the UK now. You can't talk about that.
Oh, that's bizarre.
Well, on that topic. On that topic, the Scotland Yard actually had a video that was sent to them. A lot of people don't know this. There was a video that was sent to them that showed politicians in a creepy sacrifice ritual. A lot of people don't know this. So this is actual proof that this shit goes on. So the Scotland Yard actually had video of a UK politician that was involved in this, and they were involved in both the sacrifice of the victim and then the rape of the victim.
Holy
and
shit.
This is serious shit. They actually had video of this that was given to them, and then it disappeared from the media. Literally, it's like if you try to search for this you won't find it unless you already have the link, which I have the link. But yeah, it's insane.
Definitely, I'd like to see that article if you can send it to me at some point.
Stuff like that doesn't really surprise me, especially since we do know that there is a lot of occultism in high level positions.
Yeah, actually, there was a thing that came out in The Guardian not too long. A couple of years ago. I shouldn't say not too long ago. A couple of years ago, there was a thing that came out in The Guardian where they said that there was 666 people who were involved in this type of activity that were in Hollywood, places of finance, business, all those types of things. But anyway, it came out in The Guardian, and it was actually an article from the police saying that these people were involved in satanic ritual abuse activity.
Well, I think you started in the right way. It is that I personally feel that it is more about blackmail than
absolutely
about actual rituals. It is these high positions, they are usually how would I say it? Like they're like groomed into it.
Wasn't like the ex-president of South Korea like kicked out because of this shit? Something similar. She was like she was tied to like the occult.
Mm-hmm.
I actually wrote a couple articles about that situation. There was a really interesting and bizarre set of facts around that were really, really crazy. And whatever you decide to believe about those kind of scandals, it's really crazy that basically the entire South Korean public was up in arms about their president to the point they actually got the president, kicked out, arrested, the entire thing. And it was right around the same time that the U.S. was kind of reeling from the whole
take notes, America.
Just in general, the corruption. Like you can the bizarre aspects of it aside, the corruption that was revealed in general in 2016 in various places around the world had very different effects in places like South Korea versus the U.S. But yeah, there was a whole lot of very, very bizarre aspects to that South Korean story, which haven't reread my article in a while, so I'm not up to speed on the exact facts, but it was definitely disturbing.
Well, back to WikiLeaks, let's talk about spirit cooking and how, everybody tried to make a joke out of it when that's some pretty creepy fucking shit. I mean, and you got all these people in Hollywood, these stars,
the
all
spirit
involved
cooking
in this.
disturbed me because in a lot of occult, they try to downplay it, saying that it was art, but blood throughout the history of the occult has been surrounding a lot of these rituals.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. But I mean, the fact that the media won't touch spirit cooking and say it's absolutely fucking bonkers weird that these people are involved in spirit cooking, drinking a concoction that is made out of breast milk, urine, and blood, blows my fucking mind.
Wow, can I just get a beer? Is that cool?
No.
Like, I heard it was going to be here. There was all these stars. I just thought
you gotta look at it like sushi. It's kind of raw,
Oh, Jesus.
Is this non-GMO blood and breast milk?
No, it's like a special. It's like caviar. You know how they have caviar.
Well, what's disturbing is at the party, I heard they had a naked lady in a bathtub full of blood. And she was laying there while they were serving food, and there were little kids at this party. And I'm like, what kind of fucking people are these?
Like the sushi thing where you like eat sushi from. That just seems weird.
Definitely doesn't sound vegan.
No, absolutely not.
No, but I mean, it's one of those things, we are kind of joking about it, but it's because it's so well known that the power elite, places are known for being extra molesty, right? The hell, whether it's the Hellfire Club, I mean, there's a long list of weird ritualistic crap that's always going on with the powerful and elite. Like, this isn't new that they're bathing in people's blood. They're always bathing in people's blood.
Well, speaking about molesty, Jeffrey Epstein's little plea deal that he got from our Labor Secretary Acosta is being probed right now.
Yeah, that was good news.
That was news. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great news. I just hope that the DOJ doesn't drop and refuse to prosecute that issue the way that they did with the Iran scandal. Because
I just want to see. Yeah, I just want to see the actual torture aspect of this come out, because it hasn't come out yet. And I know it's there because Jeffrey Epstein had a dentist chair in his residence that had straps on it. So, yeah, what are you going to use that for, Mr.?
Was it just the chair, or did he have like equipment for dentistry, or what?
He had equipment. No, he had everything. He had equipment.
That would seem, if you were a dentist, that would be fine. But if you weren't a dentist, that should be setting off some serious alarms. There's a
right.
Yeah, this is
definitely not normal.
This is a torture chair, not for. This is not.
Yeah, a dentist chair with people straps on it, people-sized cages should all really be setting off some red flags.
Well, fun fact: there's tunnels under that island. I bet you. I will bet you right now that if they went digging there, they would probably find skeletons.
Wasn't
just saying?
Wasn't
Did you really call it
Bill
a fun
Clinton
fact?
A regular at Epstein Island?
Yeah, he was.
What?
He's registered on the list of the plane.
Yeah.
Well, Clinton and Trump.
Yeah, they both went. Clinton went a bunch of times, though. I don't know how many times Trump did. I think it was less, but they're both. Both can be assholes at the same time, in my opinion. I mean.
Yeah, well, on the spirit of transparency and factual information, Trump was only caught on the flight one time, and it didn't go to the island; it went to New York.
Okay, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's weird that how, I mean, without getting into it, the Trumps and the Clintons have a long history together. Look, you don't invite people that you don't like to your wedding. Several of your weddings, right? Like, they're playing
Yep.
kitchen. You can see that these are long time relationships. I've always thought it was interesting, and that whole Stormy Daniels scandal and all that bullshit. She talked, we're talking about his wedding and all that crap. But in that story, she says that they were laying in bed watching Shark Week, and Hillary Clinton called his phone, and they talked about the plan. What the fuck was the plan? Right? I want to know what they talked about. Of all of the crap that came out of that was the only thing that was important, and nobody ever talks about it. Right?
No, I didn't know that. You should send me that.
Enough to call you personally, and they punch that through. It's not like you can just call and talk to Trump, right? You're on the list of people that can call and talk to him, and y'all sit back and have a chat, a year before the election? I bet you that chat was exactly, what we see. Who is the most unlikable person I can run against?
Exactly. I would agree with that one.
Well, in the WikiLeaks emails, you have I forget who it is calling Trump a Pied Piper.
I think it was between the DNC and CNN, like that they wanted to elevate him, which is why they gave him so much free airtime. I may be wrong on that, but that's what I think I remember. And yeah, I think it's really funny though when you look back at like Trump's WWE appearances and you see that he's basically doing the same thing right now as a heel. It's
it kind of is like Worldwide Wrestling watching him.
Yeah.
Guys, I mean, we're making a joke about this, but to be honest, the WWE is much more entertaining.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I would rather have Vince McMahon running the show than WWE.
Yeah.
And it's kind of embarrassing watching him talk,
It's all for show, but nobody's really going to get hurt. I worried about people getting hurt when this show goes.
Yeah. Well, it would be more than hurt. It would be like blown up with missiles. Or direct energy weapon.
I don't think that Trump's nuclear weapon works. I'm going to be honest. And he's too embarrassed to say that he pushed it and nothing happened, right? Because he's not supposed to be pushing the button. And so I feel like the one smart person in the room has disconnected whatever you need to disconnect to nuking the world.
Oh, God. Yeah, you're probably right, to be honest.
Wouldn't surprise me.
matter with your button. There was something matter with my. I didn't push it, sir. No, I didn't push it. I just wanted to make sure it worked.
Oh, you mean like that accidental FEMA thing we had for nuclear warfare, or whatever the fuck that was?
Oh, the Hawaii alert.
Yeah.
The Q took over and was like, "That's a sign of the plan. That's a sign of the plan."
Everything's part of the plan. Everything's part of the plan. Just keep on keeping on. It's like it seems like they got the people that were like continued to shovel coal in the Titanic.
They were still shoveling as they went down, huh?
Yeah, Captain knows what's going on. Don't mind the water. Just keep shoveling.
My favorite is that these Q people are still not realizing that not John Bolton. Well, yeah, John Bolton too, but the fact that Q was saying trust Sessions. Sessions is gone. Do you realize that's what that was all based on? Are you that stupid?
Oh yeah, he's just gone because 60 chess. That's all. It's fine. Trust the plan. Wait for the storm. Something. Yeah, no, it's ridiculous.
Just trust the plan. That's all.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I think that a lot of that is like, even though it sounds really desperate and we laugh about it, and it is laughable, but it's that a lot of people really look at that as their last hope, and they don't. They hold on to that so strongly because of how dire everything is around them. I think that's the problem.
I think that it did bring people together a little more united, but now they're kind of like united in a bad way almost. I mean, I don't know. That's just my perspective on that.
Well, I mean, there's no denying that we're at a time of change, and I think that is very scary for people. A world that they thought they knew is coming to an end, and I think even with you, some of it was a desperate attempt to hold on to the normality that they are so used to, and even waking up and saying, "Hey, these people don't have any idea what they're doing other than making a select few amount of, a huge amount of money." That's scary to them.
Oh, are you talking about the grifters of the Q movement that are using that whole Q thing to make like unbelievably ridiculous amounts of sums every single month?
Yeah, I mean, it's
sad.
There's maybe 10 GoFundMe's up into the millions and millions of dollars for Q. Come on, really?
Yeah, but I thought that's hilarious because I thought he was supposed to be some sort of governmental white hat. Why does he need money? And I mean, it's ridiculous on so many levels. It really is. But
did somebody make up that word? What is a governmental white hat?
I don't. Yeah, no, it's just Q lingo that goes around. I mean, it's ridiculous.
That's called a narc.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, no, it's sad. It really is. And people get it's funny because you say something that pisses off the Bernie crowd and you lose 50 followers on Twitter or whatever, and then you lose another 50 when you criticize Q. So you're doing well when everybody on both sides is pissed at you, basically.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Hey, that's the truth.
When you're like, it's insane that everybody has gone to this part in politics where you have to choose a side, left or right, and it's like, but the left is not right and the right is absolutely batshit insane. So yeah, no, I'm not going to support either.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: the left-wing media is pushing for Venezuela invasion right now. And it's just like, what's the difference between the right-wing media pushing for that and the left-wing media pushing for that? Absolutely fucking nothing.
Yeah, well, we have a uni party. It's not even a duopoly. It's a uni party for sure.
Remember no wars? No? All right.
If you mention the word left or right media, then you're already mentioning a biased narrative, right? You're always... Yeah, it's always biased.
You can't have it both ways in a week and a half of each other. First it was no wars. We need to get out all these foreign wars for profit. And then it's all well, I mean, if you're leaving, then no, we need to stay in at least the ones that we're in. We meant no new wars. And then what? A week later, they're like, we actually needed to invade Venezuela. So
exactly.
So you're down with the old wars and you're down to make new wars. You're the party of war. Like, just admit it.
Yeah, where are the old liberals that used to be the hippies and the guys out of the '60s, man, and the anti-war left back then? What happened?
That's what I'm saying. What happened to the anti-war left?
Yeah.
Where did you go, anti-war left?
They went to Maddow on MSNBC and they lost them.
They're all dying, I guess.
No, they're not those people. You know, you have a group of especially, look, I hold a special, disrespect for Democrats because those are the ones that are supposed to be representing me, right? Those are the ones that have came out and said that they were for the people, that they were for peace and against the wars. And then, look, at least the Republicans come in and say things like drill, baby, drill, bomb the fuck out of them. They don't lie about supporting the military-industrial complex. It's just the reason that you don't see these people, even in the narrative, they chose till 2019 to stand up. 2019 to stand up? Where were you over this entire time? So you have people that have been in politics this entire time and never stood up and then expect me to believe that you chose this time to stand up.
And then you have, it's insane because then you have Rand Paul on the right as a Republican actually saying, maybe we shouldn't just invade countries and we should allow Congress to have a say in this. And then everybody's like, no.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel CERN did this really fucked up experiment, and we're all in like a fucked up universe right now where, cryptocurrency is a thing, this magical digital money will mine, and then we have Donald Trump as a president, and then we have the anti-war left that has vanished, and we have
hell, Tucker Carlson is more anti-war than anybody on the left, as far as like compared to somebody like Maddow, anyway.
Yeah.
That's not actually that far off, to be honest. I mean, these
are the same people that immediately go, we can't leave Syria. You just had to update, like, we just had a rally about this.
It's true.
It's one of those, as soon as you hear somebody come out and say, well, we can't leave Syria, ask them right away, directly. Be like, okay, where can we leave? Out of all of the list of countries that we are illegally at war with at this very moment, they did not go through Congress. Which one would you say that we need to leave right now? Which illegal war for profit are you actually against? And watch them. You'll get the you're breaking up. You're breaking up the signal. We're losing the satellite.
Yeah. No, and I think like it's really, when you understand that, it's definitely more about policing an empire than it is about fighting a war in a lot of these situations.
It's just regime change over and over again. I mean, it's insane now that people don't realize it after how many regime change operations now? At least like 15, maybe more.
What blows my mind and why I know that it's coming to an end is because you can go to your average high schooler and he'll tell you or she'll tell you that these regime changes are made to keep places destabilized to take their resources. So there is like an understanding of that you don't see in kind of the previous generation. Even my generation at the same age, it wasn't something that I truly understood. And it seems like that is like it isn't as hidden or as it was before. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because independent media has like really flourished in at least the beginning of this internet age. Like, who knows if it'll still continue to, but I think that, when the Iraq War, the build up to the Iraq War happened, I never heard about VIPs and their like the veteran intelligence professionals for sanity and them standing up against the bad intelligence that was, being blasted across all of the cable news channels. I only heard the cable news channels, whereas now people have other news sources. And like we talked about earlier with all these media outlets laying off so many journalists, the independent news is winning in this kind of marketplace. And at the moment, it hasn't been shut down yet. And I think that, there's a whole lot of shenanigans that goes on to try and hide the fact that independent media is getting so much more attention than establishment press is. But that's the reality, I think.
Well, what's going on right now is they are beginning to really crack down on independent media to the point where they're trying to force us all out. Because there's ad networks that are refusing. I don't know if you know or not, but NewsGuard actually has a thing called Brand Guard, where NewsGuard wants to ban media that isn't, in their opinion, credible. Right? They want to delete fake news, and Brand Guard, they actually want to destroy these brands. So they're really going to start kicking this into overgear within the next couple months, going into the 2020 primaries next year, and they're probably going to kill some of these independent media organizations that aren't looking for an alternative to start making revenue, because if you don't have revenue coming in, then you can't keep the site going. You can't pay your writers and everything. And recently, within the past year, a lot of independent media journalists have actually stopped working and stopped writing things because the publishers can't pay them.
Right. Yeah, it's really unfortunate.
Like, I work on a
censorship.
deficit.
Yeah, go ahead.
Like, absolute deficit. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm done. I was done. That's all I wanted to say.
No, I was just wanting to agree with you and say that I think that a lot of things have been done to crack down on independent media. Like, we were able, as a kind of collective, to do really well. But then it's definitely become harder and harder for many different outlets, whether it's the Atlantic Council's DFR lab working with Facebook to censor, or whether it's Media Bias Fact Check, lying about WikiLeaks, lying about Disobedient Media, lying about the Atlantic Council, all over, giving the Atlantic Council a perfect rating versus WikiLeaks a mixed rating. All of these different things, whether it's financial or whether it's just an information warfare situation. They're definitely fighting back from the top down, and nobody knows what's going to happen, how that's going to end up. But.
Well, in regards to NewsGuard, it's just hilarious to me that their advisors are all connected to the government. It's just
it's state-sponsored propaganda for sure, just like Hamilton 68 was. It's all BS.
It's the Ministry of Truth.
Yeah, yes, there you go. That's right.
Yeah, it's literally what it is, because like I said, they're all connected to the government in some form or way. There was only like 2 journalists that I could find on their advisory board, maybe 3, but even if they were a journalist, they were a press release person for so and so administration or something in that regard. But with this whole NewsGuard thing, they're trying to push it default on people's phones, tablets, laptops. If this thing gets installed on people's phones, tablets, and laptops, I will throw an absolute revolution against this company. I will I will have so many people up in arms against this. Like, I'm not kidding. I'm absolutely tired of this censorship that's going on. And if they put this in as a default application on all of our devices, all our electronic devices, I will be pissed.
Oh yeah, remember what we saw, AK, when the Dark Overlord was trying to post some shit about 9/11, and then it was disappearing from everywhere that we thought was safe.
Yeah, well, here's the thing with them, and they are just for money, as they said.
Oh, I know.
And they were publishing way more than just those 9/11 documents. I don't know if, honestly, it could have been the fact that they were saying that they were going to publish hundreds and hundreds of celebrities' plastic surgery photos that got them taken down. Who the hell knows? Because, we're not the people who work there at these at Steemit. So, I mean, I don't know what, but they did. Steemit got a DMCA takedown notice.
Yeah,
wow,
I heard about that. Yeah, it was over.
When did that happen?
A few weeks ago.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Steemit got a DMCA takedown notice on the photos that they published on whoever the celebrity was that they published
it
and
was
showed her.
a British. She was a British exercise star or something like that.
Yeah, but yeah, they published her breast, and then they said that they wanted to take that down in the DMCA takedown notice. So who knows if the 9/11 was what got their account banned, or if they were banned for that. I mean, I honestly, thinking about it now, because there's been nothing about it in the media at all, it looks like it's I could be wrong, but it looks like it's a hacktivist group that is kind of like a sanctioned type of NSA type of operation. That's what it looks like to me, because there was nothing significant that came out of that 9/11 leak besides one document where it said that the military decided to intervene in Flight 93, which Flight 93, or was it Flight 93? I think it was Flight 93, the Shanksville flight. And that to me is interesting, because the official story of the Shanksville flight was that the passengers helped take down the plane, not that the military intervened. So make of it what you will. Oh, and also, I just remembered that there was a video of Dick Cheney saying about shooting down Flight 93.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Oh yeah,
I didn't know that either. Wow.
Oh yeah, I've got archives for days. I have lots of information on 9/11. I'm probably one of few who does, to be honest. But
I mean, that wouldn't surprise me. You know, we are that was being thrown around. I mean, there's plenty of evidence to that in what was being said at the time, is that rather than risk another plane smacking into an urban area or this and that, they were given orders to shoot it out of the sky.
But wouldn't that violate posse comitatus?
Absolutely.
It would, which is why they would cover it up. You don't want to be the pilot that shot it down.
Oh, and that would cause an uproar like you would never see. With the families, I'm not saying the American people would give a shit, but the families, they would give a shit. The U.S. government would be sued beyond belief for that one.
Remember, what was it? Obama said that U.S. citizens couldn't sue Saudi Arabia. Remember that?
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
I remember that, and that was like thrown the fuck out by the judge.
Yeah.
In spirit of 9/11, though, there's actually, a lot of people don't know this, in December, the architects and engineers for 9/11, they finally, after, I think it's like 17 years, after 17 years, well, now it's 18 because we're in 2018, or 2019, I'm sorry, but they finally got a federal grand jury to a panel, finally. So they're finally going to look at the evidence that they have on 9/11, and they have a lot of shit. They have actual thermite samples. I don't know if anybody knows that or not, but they do.
Oh, wow.
Is it still Richard Gage doing that? Seen you. Or it is different people now. Architects, engineers. Did he just drop out?
I don't know. He's muted.
No, I always liked architects and engineers 9/11 too, because you hear a lot of theories about it, but these were actually all specialists, right? I mean,
right,
architects and like people who know what they're talking about, and they had so much proof about the fact that it's impossible for these towers to collapse in such speeds. And
Well,
more like
you
the
know, one of
technical
my friends
evidence.
said the exact same thing. I'm not going to give her name up, but she is one of the few that has her father's company has a one of the few ATF licenses to use demolition right on buildings, and she told me that a free fall like that can only be done by by dynamite. You know.
Now you know Danny Uengo too, right? The explosive expert from my country. He, he literally said that this has to be like controlled demolition, especially that building number 7. And then he died a few years later. It was like the biggest, or like the most prominent explosive expert in my country, in the Netherlands. So yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and he went like on video. I mean, Danny Uenko. I mean, he was like a very much respected explosive expert. I mean, not someone from like the underground, but really like a mainstream explosive expert. And yeah, yeah,
That is a huge shame. I'm sure that didn't get any press coverage in the US, right?
No, and there were some weird stories surrounding that. Like he died in a car accident, and then they said he was drunk behind the wheel. But I personally knew him, and he had never drunk anything in his life. He never drank alcohol. So yeah, that's another thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I thought you were talking about the
I asked you if it was
grand
still
jury.
Richard Gage in Architects Engineers. Is it impossible to mention the name Richard Gage, or you drop off?
Well, fun fact: the NORAD commander who actually scattered the planes that day was on a train that derailed. And I don't know if you know or not, but
AK, oh, he's gone.
Yeah, there is something in this connection.
Okay, that's weird.
Yeah.
Hold on. That's bizarre. That's not like him. Let me message him.
Happens a lot on here for some reason.
Well, it is Google.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
We're already looking
Need
at
I say more?
Yeah, like this morning, you know, like I give a link out, and all of a sudden somebody I don't know is in the chat room. That was bizarre. What else? What else should we talk about?
Hey, you had a list of questions for Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Did you ask all these things already?
Oh yeah, Julian's legal challenge against the Trump administration.
Right. Yeah. So basically, it sounded like they are attempting to get the Inter-American Court of Human Rights to, and I believe that's the correct name, to order Trump to order. Basically, they want Trump to have to reveal the charges against Assange, and they want that to then force Ecuador to protect Assange from extradition, because they're not allowed to extradite an Ecuadorian citizen, you know, and they're not allowed to extradite somebody who has asylum, you know, when they are going to, if they are going to face, you know, harm. So I think it's an interesting move. I'm not aware of what the Inter-American Court of Human Rights has, like, as far as how or you know, to what extent it can enforce rulings, but I think it's a really interesting move by Assange's legal team. You know, I think that it's a real shame that the Trump administration is being so aggressive on a number of fronts, whether it's in trying to prosecute Assange or whether it's, you know, nominating people like Gina Haspel to CIA director. You know, there are a whole number of things where Trump and his administration are definitely making some very concerning decisions about national security and about Assange and WikiLeaks. But I think that it's also important to remember that when if Assange is prosecuted in the United States, it will not be for anything that happened in 2016. It will be for the Manning era publications from WikiLeaks, and it will be for, definitely for Vault 7, but it will have nothing to do with Mueller. It's not, the charges against Assange are from the Eastern District of Court of Virginia, which is not where Mueller his investigation is based. He's based in DC. So there's a whole lot of misinformation going around about that whole situation, and there's I think a lot of hype that seems to think that if Assange is prosecuted in the US, that it will be something about Russiagate, which is just totally incorrect and not the case. And so it puts the American establishment media in a bit of a bind, because he will be prosecuted for publications, at least when it comes to the Manning documents and collateral murder and all of that, which they largely supported when it embarrassed Bush. And that's what he's going to be prosecuted for. So they have a kind of indefensible position on that, I think. So, well,
let's remember that, they don't play fair.
Of course.
And recently, the whole entire thing with The Guardian having their air quotes reporter report about a secret meeting between Assange and Manafort. I think that was set up to basically try to give them a reason to prosecute Assange for 2016. And I wouldn't doubt in my mind at all that they will try to, under seal, try to push some type of bullshit. If Assange is extradited to the U.S., I would not doubt that they would try to push some type of fabricated bullshit that WikiLeaks was connected to Russia for the 2016 leak.
I think there's so little there that I doubt they'll actually be able to try to charge him for 2016. But I do think that Assange Manafort fabricated story was definitely, I believe, intended to distract and deflect from the revelation that there are charges pending against Assange in the US. And so it was definitely designed, in my opinion, to create that public perception of those charges being around the DNC emails and Podesta emails, even though that will never be the case. I think that really, unfortunately, it successfully changed the public narrative and discussion from, oh my God, the U.S. State Department has accidentally, quote unquote accidentally, I don't know if it was actually accidentally, but they've revealed that they have charges against Assange, and then the follow-up, point, which is that those are about things that the left-wing establishment press supported WikiLeaks on. So we then changed the subject completely back over to Manafort and 2016 and all of that.
But we're supposed to believe that the courts clerks at Virginia somehow made a absolute insane blunder where they were copy pasting into a document that's not even related to anything near Assange at all. I forget what the case is on that Assange was kind of combined with in that document.
Used. I believe his case was used as an example in a completely unrelated. It was and it was hilarious because it was an argument to keep documents in a different case sealed. So I can't say or speculate whether that was actually an accident or not. I just don't know, but it was very bizarre when it happened, for sure.
I didn't think that, no, because I was reading it and it didn't really make sense at all. It was just all of a sudden that the paragraph changed into Assange. I'm pretty sure it was just a copy paste.
Mistake. A complete error. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think it had anything to do with referencing WikiLeaks' case or anything. I think it was just a copy paste error that they did.
Wow.
But yeah, I can't, in my mind, I cannot believe that even happened without any type of, I think it was deliberate. I think they did it deliberately to reveal those charges, to start the process to try to extradite Assange. That's my opinion of it.
You may be right. I'm not sure. I know that it seemed that there was a push to get Assange out of the embassy by Christmas for a few weeks there, and then that didn't happen. But I think, and that's a good thing. But I think that, yeah, I can imagine that may have been the case. It would be interesting if it was. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's pure speculation and conjecture. But I mean, it doesn't make sense to me that you would make such a severe error like that. I mean, is it possible? I guess.
Well, that happened.
But,
remember the 5,000 troops to Colombia. I mean, they fuck up a lot, you know.
5,000 ships. Where was this?
John Bolton's.
That was on a notepad
troops.
At the press.
Oh,
at the press.
Not ships. Troops. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. Well, my source says that that's all bullshit. That's propaganda because they want to put in more than 25,000, potentially up to 30,000 troops into Colombia within the next 6 months, with the earlier time frame being more likely because there was a secret meeting that took place that not even the media, no media covered this meeting at all. No media covered this meeting between the new commander of the U.S. Southern Command and this secret meeting took place. Nobody knows what was said there or anything, but the only outlet that actually covered this meeting was a Russian media outlet, ironically. And it wasn't Sputnik. It was starts with a V. I can't remember it for the life of me. Something with a V, but basically, they covered this meeting, and my source says that the meeting did indeed take place. That was on the agenda. But if you try looking for this meeting anywhere online, you cannot find it. But the ironic thing about the Russian piece is that they actually used propaganda in it, and I mentioned that myself. The U.S. Southern Command is always in Colombia. The Russian media, they spun it to the point where they said that troops were already in the ground or on the ground in Colombia, and that's true. They are already on the ground in Colombia, but they spun it to the point where the U.S. just put troops on the ground in Colombia. Wow. So that's just something to notice. But the true story of what they did was that secret meeting really did take place between the U.S. Southern Command commander, I can't remember his name for the life of me, and Colombian officials. And it's kind of interesting because last year there was also a secret meeting around the same time in February. So it was off by a couple days. It was like February, I think it was like February 8th or something like that. But the point being is that they've been having these meetings going on in Colombia to talk about a coup-op or military action in Venezuela. And then you have their Plan B, which Plan B is Juan Guaido. Because he's completely connected to intelligence services, and he's connected to Canvas, which,
of course,
is connected to Stratford.
Yeah, well, and I mean, I think, and I know that you all are aware of this, but I think just for the purpose of the discussion, it's important to just say again that Venezuela has the highest, the largest oil reserves in the world, and B, that the sanctions that the U.S. has put into place and the international sanctions that have been put into place around Venezuela have been extreme. And I think those two things are definitely left out of the discussion far too often.
John Bolton actually said that we want to go in and go get Venezuela's oil.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He doesn't hide it. He doesn't hide it. This is the most absolute inept, corrupt administration that I think the U.S. has ever had.
Well, it's like they don't have to hide it anymore. I mean, you see the same thing. I mean, whether it's the administration or whether it's Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Brenda Snipes in Florida, Brenda Snipes and Debbie Wasserman Schultz were photographed a couple of weeks before the midterm elections campaigning together the Broward County Supervisor of Elections campaigning with one candidate. Are you kidding me? So that's to me the equivalent of Bolton just admitting that it's all about oil. I mean, meaning it's just so blatant now. It's so shameless because they know that they're untouchable. No, they know that there's nothing that can be done to stop them now. And I think that's the really concerning takeaway from that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's insane that you have a national security advisor or the head national security advisor saying that we're going to go into Venezuela. If you don't like it, oh, well, we're going for their oil.
Exactly.
I can't.
It's insane.
It's absolutely insane. I can't. I never thought that I would see the day where they basically admit regime change. They're not doing it covertly. They're not doing it in secret. No, they're doing it in the damn fucking open.
Unfortunately, that's exactly right. Yep.
Well, there's no. They never have to atone for anything anymore. There's no justice, no investigations. It's just, oh yeah, well, you caught us doing something illegal. Well, oh well.
Well, I guess Assad blew up his own citizens again today. Let's talk about that. Yeah.
Is that something that really just happened?
No. I'm just saying that's just how they change the subject. It's like, okay, well, Trump wants to pull out of Syria. Well, too bad. Gas attack.
I think yeah. Speaking of that one, I think Congress overrode his decision to leave Syria, and Congress said that they can't leave Syria because there are too many hostiles over there.
Yeah, and I think that didn't they? I saw it, and I didn't read it. But
I knew it was a lie. What Trump said, because ISIS still controls Hajib, which is in the southern part of Syria. They still control that area.
Oh yeah.
Well, but the thing is too, I believe I read an article, or I saw an article from Mint Press News about the fact that not only are the other troops not going to be withdrawing, but they're actually surging by 50%. At least that's what I saw. Have any of you guys heard that as well?
Well, I've heard
they're surging by 50.
I've heard ISIS is having a strong presence in North Africa. Yeah, and I've heard it, in Sudan, Morocco, not Tunisia, but definitely Sudan and Morocco.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, a lot of people don't realize, as soon as Trump got into office, probably about a month later, or maybe two, he immediately signed something to send in troops into Africa.
Yeah, I've heard a bit about the fact that they're kind of increasing the presence in Africa to a huge extent.
Yep. A lot of people don't know that, but they've been, while everybody's distracted and they were talking about Trump bombing Syria, I think that's around the time when that happened, the first time that he bombed Syria. When Brian Williams said, "It's such a beautiful sight to see these bombs." What?
Wow. That's sickening.
No, yeah, he really did say that.
That's crazy.
He quoted, I forget who he quoted. He quoted some poet, and he said that it's such a beautiful sight to see these bombs. But yeah, at the same time that they were doing that, they were moving into Africa. So the thing to take away from this is, as the right hand is doing something, look at the left hand, because if something's going on with a scandal or something like that, immediately after the scandal, a few hours maybe, or a few days at most, there's usually some other type of event to throw off that scandal. I mean, it's been a constant coincidence after coincidence. When there's a big scandal, there's something else that comes out afterward to distract from the huge scandal.
Yeah. What I think is people. There's something going on with your audio.
Who, me?
No, with AK's.
Probably. I'm probably being hacked. Who knows, dude?
No, I was saying
too vocal.
It's important for people to to realize that the United States military establishment has a constant need for war. It's not actually these sock puppet politicians deciding it, but they're just the actors to take the blame, of course, because there is a
Bingo.
constant need because this is military establishment is so big. These huge corporations like Lockheed Martin, Boeing, and stuff. Every time there is a war, the government actually buys the ammunition and the missiles from these huge companies, and it is a move of private wealth and tax money into the hands of these huge corporations. And yeah.
Well, they actually make money off of destroying the country by bombing them, and then they make money off of going into the country with contracts and fixing up what they destroyed.
Yeah.
Halliburton, you know.
Yeah, Halliburton. Dude, like every war, these companies are growing. These companies are getting bigger and bigger, and even though it costs normal people tax money, these companies are getting bigger, and the stock market flourishes from it. And
yeah. The saying is that something that'll drive an economy is a war.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Speaking of the war in Syria, this hasn't been discussed a lot, but the Kurds, we completely abandoned them. You know that in Syria, and when the Turks were saying that they were going to kill them, we did absolutely nothing.
Yeah, well, Erdogan came over here and he was pushing around protesters outside of D.C. Well, not him. I mean, his bodyguards were.
Erdogan gave a shocking speech about this whole Venezuela thing. He was raging against the West. It was actually a very interesting speech. Shocking, but I've heard that the elections are soon, so he had to do something like that. But yeah, it is
interesting.
Yeah, he was really speaking out against the West, trying to
that means that the relations with Turkey are not too good.
No, and that's a bad thing because Turkey is, after the United States, the largest NATO partner. So yeah, you're talking about 1 million soldiers or more. Oh no, Turkey.
But earlier, my VPN dropped, just to let you guys know.
Interesting. Okay.
That's what happened. I dropped within that conversation when I was talking about deaths of important people that were around 9/11. My VPN drops. Yeah, no, that's a little interesting. Yeah, I won't go into that anymore. But I thought that was a little weird that my VPN dropped. But my kill switch stopped the leak of IPs and whatever. But I thought it was a little interesting that it dropped when I said that. It was odd.
Definitely. Very.
They have your voice printed. You can't go anywhere now.
Have you voice printed?
Yeah.
Terrence keeps dropping too, by the way. He's dropped out again. I just saw him join and he dropped again.
Who, Terrence?
Yeah, there is something going on.
Oh yeah, you want to hear something creepy too? Is that my router got hacked a few weeks ago, and yeah, they were and it was kind of bizarre because they were using like a range extender, and I have a pretty complex password, so I don't know if it was brute force or they used an exploit.
Probably an exploit.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: a lot of this software has backdoors in it. And hardware.
Absolutely.
Sorry. And hardware.
Yeah.
And hardware, especially and hardware, because these companies that produce hardware, they have secret deals with the NSA and etc.
Okay, well, if I can give advice to the NSA, we're just having a show here. You can just listen to the actual show. If you just let us talk, then you might get more information than actually disturbing connections.
Well, there was an exploit that was being passed around about a what is it called, UPnP, and you should be turning it off on your router.
Oh yeah, I always had that disabled. I know exactly what you're talking about. I didn't know there was an exploit for it.
Yes.
I've always turned that off.
Yeah, it's been at least I've been hearing about it recently, but apparently it's been a known fact for like a year or two.
And especially if you have a modem router with your ISP. Oh yeah, no. You gotta buy a new router there, my friend. I'm speaking in general, by the way, to anybody who's listening. If you have a router modem from your ISP, that shit is probably completely exploitable by security services because they have secret deals with your ISP. Best believe. Especially Snowden revealed that. I mean, he revealed the whole thing with Verizon cell phone services and AT&T cell phone services, Sprint. Who else am I missing?
Oh yeah,
T-Mobile.
all of them.
Well, the Chinese.
Yeah, all of them.
The Chinese have their own chips in it.
All of them monitor your traffic.
Yeah, exactly. They record your traffic, or they were recording your traffic to the big data center in Nevada, Utah.
Yeah, I thought it was in Utah. Yeah, they have a huge data center out there.
Yeah, it is actually in Utah. I said Nevada. I don't know why I said Nevada, but it's in Utah. It's the biggest data center they have. It's like how big is it?
It's a size of like 2 or 3 warehouses.
No. I meant data-wise.
Oh,
like
data-wise?
Like terabytes. I just can't remember.
Well, I mean, it would be past terabytes. We're talking way past petabytes.
Petrobytes?
No,
Petrobytes.
Petabytes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're talking storage warehouses that you're talking about 3 warehouses long. So imagine how many rack blade servers you can put in there. Jesus.
Point being, though, they have all of everybody's data, and they have it all organized in a nice fashion.
And they use a form of cloud storage too, so it's not just that data center. They store it all around the world, and that's also a bad thing because the foreign governments also have access to it if the right deals are made. So.
Oh yeah, I was going to say the cloud services is probably linked into the actual data center, and then the foreign services can connect to the cloud service to view any of that data. That wouldn't surprise me.
Right. Yeah, no, and I mean, like, when you think about something like the Iran scandal, where they had an offsite server and they were getting all of the information from these congressmen and women and copying it to an offsite server, it's really very obviously a corrupt situation. Then you also have, the Amazon contracts with the CIA for cloud services and stuff like that as well. That are really well known. Yeah.
On the subject of Awan, though, wasn't he connected to Pakistan intelligence?
I believe so. I know he was obviously had deep links with Pakistan. I believe there were links with intelligence. Yeah.
I believe he was connected to Pakistan intelligence, and he was like forwarding information. And the thing is, what the hell happened to that? It's disappeared.
I'll tell you exactly what happened to that. The Department of Justice declined to prosecute, conveniently right before the midterm elections, in which Debbie Wasserman Schultz yes, that's exactly what happened. The Department of Justice under Trump declined to prosecute the Iran scandal. We just published an article that talks about it today, and it's like, there's so much that was going on with that. It's like, well, why would they do that? Why would they also decline to prosecute Brenda Snipes for destroying ballots illegally? Who benefits in both of those situations? Well, Debbie Wasserman Schultz benefits. Why are they protecting Debbie Wasserman Schultz? Good question. Somebody should be asking that, and nobody is. So, yeah,
well,
no, it is insane.
In regards to the A1 scandal, that's insane. That's like saying that they're not going to prosecute they're not going to prosecute the leaker and of the WikiLeaks documents because, well, here's the thing: the A1s hacked into multiple Democrats because they were their tech support.
Right, exactly.
They were their tech support, so they have so much data that was just forwarded off to a foreign server, and you're not going to prosecute that. What?
Exactly. Yeah. No, it deserves to be questioned.
But you prosecuted Aaron Swartz for stealing
JSTOR document publishing. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
That's absolutely. Oh my God! I hope you made a comparison to that because that's
totally vomit worthy.
They wanted to give him 30 years for that. That was ridiculous.
Oh yeah. Well, they wanted. Here's the thing: they used that to target
pretext.
everything. Right? Not only as a pretext, but they used that to target Aaron Swartz for all of the other activity that he was involved in, because they knew that he was involved in Anonymous. They knew that he was involved in all the other types of activities. So they went after him for that because it was public, and that's what they could get him with.
And he was helping WikiLeaks too.
Yes.
And that's a major reason that he was targeted in that way too, I would say, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. He was targeted for his affiliation with WikiLeaks, and he was targeted for his affiliation with an Anonymous. And that's right there, that links WikiLeaks with Anonymous, if anybody's paying attention. WikiLeaks had, when it started out, was a lot of Anons were involved in it. And that's all I'll go with that. I'm not going any further with that.
Yeah. But no, I think that's really, it's something that, now with the Aaron Swartz, like remembrances and the people that write about Aaron Swartz, they never talk about the WikiLeaks connection. They never talk about that aspect of his life and death. And I think that the only person that I know has talked about that has been Susie Dawson in her article being Julian Assange. But other than that, I don't know that anybody has really talked about it.
Because most people don't even know that it even existed. It was supposed to be a secret. It was supposed to be a secret. But people started talking about it after his death. People who actually knew him or worked with him started talking about it because that's what was being swept under the rug. And it's insane that Aaron worked on this and that, and a lot of this work was never even known. But the thing is, Aaron wasn't about being known; he was about getting work done, and that's what's rare now within not only just Anonymous, but in general in society. There's not a lot of people who just want to get work done. There's a lot of people who want e-fame or some type of fame for doing something good, and that's not what everything's about.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I completely agree. And there's a lot of people who want e-fame for doing absolutely nothing, which is actually really easy to do. But when you
just claim your cue.
Yeah, or I mean, there's a whole lot of easy ways to become e-famous and not do a damn thing. But then when you publish actually good work, it means that you'll be pissing off both echo chambers on the left and right, and that means that you're actually going to hamper yourself. And so the only way, if you don't create clickbait, then you slow your progress down, and that's something that we definitely try to do at Disobedient Media, is not seek like clickbait responses from people and not try to kind of cheat our way into an audience, because the clickbaiting, I hate the whole clickbait thing, but in regards to being able to get clicks and, as an independent journalist, in some sense, you have to do it. Yeah,
in some ways, to an extent. Right. Yeah, right. You don't try to make something more flamboyant than it is.
Yeah, well, I guess my point was basically that it's interesting because you can become e-famous without doing any work, but when you do a lot of work, a lot of times people don't really engage with it as much, and so it's kind of a weird reality where the really good work by a lot of people, can go unnoticed, versus kind of just vapid crap.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Like Louise mentioned, her whole entire push for everybody's a Russian, and they're involved in Russiagate, myself included. She tried accusing me of being Luke Rogowski and being the same person, and said that I was connected to Russia. And I'm just like, okay, lady, if that's what you want to believe, I mean...
Yeah, I mean, we've had multiple attacks on us claiming that we are, the usual, supporting the talking points of the Kremlin or something or other. It's hilarious, though, because every single person at Disobedient Media is a US or UK citizen. We have no financial ties to anyone, much less Russia. So they really cannot say that we are Russian. So they just try to say that we're supporting their talking points, which is total BS. But yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's exactly what they do.
And that's why, like with like Tulsi Gabbard, they'll try to say that she's supporting the Kremlin narrative. They don't actually try to make any actual connection. They just make it sound like there's a connection, and if you're not paying attention, you know the difference. So,
yeah,
They're just
ironically,
deliberately using the wrong narrative because, of course, foreign government they consider as hostile would benefit from any corruption stories about American politicians, but that is just because it is a foreign hostile government. So it has nothing to do with having connections. They are using the wrong narrative. It's propaganda.
And I mean, maybe if the US wasn't so corrupt, maybe you wouldn't be giving them that ammunition.
Bingo.
Nobody's going to say that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's exactly what needs to be said. If the U.S. didn't have so much corruption going on, maybe people wouldn't talk about it, and it wouldn't be a Kremlin talking point. That's absolutely insane to me that they say that talking about corruption in the U.S. and holding your government fucking accountable for shit that it does is a Kremlin talking point. What? What?
Yeah, let's just ignore the fact that Flint, Michigan, would only require $50 million to fix up their water supply. Meanwhile, how much are we spending on the Mueller investigation, in military BS? That's the type of stuff that they just don't, like you said, they just don't want us to talk about it.
Or Trump's wall. Let's just say that we took the money that was going to go for his wall and actually fixed up the country's infrastructure, which, by the way, I don't know if you know or not, but a lot of the dams are probably going to break.
Bridges, all of that public infrastructure for sure. Much less, and if you were, talking about waste of money, what about the government subsidies for big agriculture and all of the different various horrific, corporations and all of that get government subsidies to pollute and to destroy our environment? I mean, it's literally insane.
It's absolutely mind-blowing.
So your tax dollars are going to terrible corporations that are poisoning your backyard, literally.
Yeah.
But nobody's going to talk about that on CNN.
Nobody will talk about that on any type of cable news network.
You know what's funny is that anytime I turn on CNN, all they do is talk about Trump. Like, I can literally turn it on any time of the day, and they're talking about Trump. like I'm like, dude, like there's more news than just Trump, but that's all they talk about is Trump, and I'm just like, dude, this is like I want to hear something else.
It's because it distracts from all the important news. It distracts from all the fact that areas of the United States look like developing countries, and the fact that so many people are literally just living in despair, and they have so much rage that is directed towards the establishment. So that's why CNN and its compatriots have to distract as many people as they can from that and make them hate one side of the political spectrum or one person in one side of the political spectrum.
I just find it funny that CNN reported, and this is a long time ago, but I just find it funny that CNN reported on what Trump was eating at a restaurant. That's what they needed to report on.
Or the whole Stormy Daniels story. I mean, all of it. It's a complete farce. It's
the Stormy Daniels, that really was not newsworthy. Okay, so before the election even happened, like they try to spin shit so much.
I know.
Like, it's insane how much they try to spin shit, and people just keep gobbling it down.
Yeah, and when you actually publish stuff that isn't amygdala triggering, it will get much less response, because even people that are consuming independent media a lot of the time are really kind of like still in that need for that. They're in a place where they seem to really want that hyper partisan or hyper politically emotional language, and if you don't provide that, then people
they want their echo chamber.
Yeah, exactly.
They want their echo chamber, and if you can't provide their echo chamber, then they'll go to somebody who does provide their echo chamber.
Yeah, it's like drug addicts almost.
Yeah, it really is like drug addicts. It's like you need your fix of bullshit from your chosen political party, whether it's the left or the right. They all spin shit. Every single type of media, even independent media, is a form of quote-unquote propaganda, except independent media and independent media's propaganda is more towards peace, love, and unity, as opposed to the mainstream media, where they're more united towards dividing and all of that.
Definitely seems that way. Yeah.
But yeah, one of my former editors once told me that every single media is a form of propaganda, and I mean, I didn't really see it until probably last year, I guess. And then I was like, well, yeah, I guess he's right. He's really right. It really is. Every single form of media is a form of propaganda, because you are trying to push your viewpoints on somebody else. Except in the case of independent media, you're telling people, do your own research. Guess what? Mainstream media is not telling people to do their own research. They're just shoveling shit down.
But QAnon's telling people to do their own research. I'm sure they do, though, right?
I did do my own research, Q, and you know what it said? It said, you're bullshit, because you have called multiple things that have not come to fruition.
Didn't the owner of 8chan said it was it was a scam?
Yeah.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah, no, that was recent. He came out and said it, but he's still allowing it on there, which is just mind-blowing.
Okay, you wrote an article basically debunking it and exposing who was sort of responsible for that. So
Because
I don't know if you want to talk about it.
Because the motherfuckers asked me to be a part of it.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. So I think it's kind of like I think that might be relevant to the discussion here a little bit.
Wasn't this the ex campaign director for the Trump administration for his elections? He is the main guy behind it, besides the 4chan trolls.
No, Ezra Cohen Watnick. Now, I've been told to stop mentioning his name by somebody. I won't mention their name who told me it, but somebody threatened me to stop mentioning his name connected to this. But I'm going to mention it anyway, because I was told in a DM by the person who wanted me to get involved in this whole Q thing that Ezra Cohen Watnick was the first Q. And I was just like, huh? And then they walked it back and tried to say that, oh, it was them just spewing thoughts. And I was like, no, you told me in confidence that Ezra was the first Q. And I was like, I didn't even know who he was. And then I started looking into him, and he has all these psyops. Like the perfect person. He has all this psyops experience and training from Quantico and everything else. And I was just like, what? Like, how did you throw me into this? I'm like, I didn't want to be a part of this, at all, but I was just like, I was fighting with myself to expose it, because I was like, I don't want to expose a source that I was using, but in the same rhetoric, I was just like, well, this is corrupt, and I was like, this is getting out of control. So then at that point, I was just like, I'm going to expose it, because it's just insane. What I saw, there was a guy who burned forest in California. There was a guy
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and there was a guy who hijacked an armored truck and said, release the memo. And I was just like, what the fuck is going on?
That's insane.
I mean, this is going too far.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, Jack Posobiec also published an article where he talked about having been approached about QAnon, and I believe by the same group of people. I don't remember if he mentioned mentioned their names, but I know that he said he was approached. So it sounds like they were doing this to a number of people on the left and the right, oddly enough,
Well, no, he said that he was approached by the people who were responsible for it, and it was the same people that I reported.
Exactly, that's what I remember reading. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what Tyler
he left out Ezra.
I think what Tyler means was the other guy who was also involved with it is that Justin McConney guy, Microchip.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, is that who Microchip is?
Yeah, he was also involved for sure, but he used to run huge botnets, especially on Twitter, and everyone who was against him and stuff, he would raid them with hundreds of Twitter accounts, and I'm pretty convinced he is responsible for like pushing that whole thing to become like big and.
Oh, absolutely. More than likely, yeah.
Didn't the original guys, some of the original guys, they said it was a troll at first.
I think that sort of kind of goes along with the way that it developed. It sort of looked like it was a joke at first, and then it got way out of control. At least that's the way I think of it. But or maybe maybe it was a joke at first. It went out of control and then was sort of taken over by, sort of deep state interests.
Well,
that's
here's the
another way
thing.
of seeing it.
Here's the thing. Here's what I was told about it. I was told Ezra was the very first person who was Q. I was told that he seeded the operation with real information regarding Saudi arrest. Okay? Those Saudi mass arrests that happened.
Yeah.
That was, okay. That makes sense to me because how the hell anybody predict that unless they had some type of clearance where, they had access to that type of information.
That's an interesting theory. I think that's logical.
Oh yeah, that's what makes sense to me. So the whole Saudi arrest that happened, that's where I think Q was real. Okay, real as in the sense that it was a real government insider. Now I think that it's evolved from passing from person to person to person to person to person. And who the hell knows who has access to it? But that Q is running on a widely known form for white supremacist 8chan. So,
yeah, no, a lot of baby boomers seem to overlook that or not understand it. So,
yeah,
it's interesting. But yeah, no, I think that for me, I understood that it was if it had been a joke or however it started, that it had been, kind of co-opted at least for establishment interest when it started advocating for war with Iran, and that was like last year. It was a while ago, but that's when I was
thought
like,
that was hilarious.
Yeah,
I thought that was absolutely insane. I was like, what? It's like, well, war with Iran is good. Trust the orange bad man.
Yeah, got into a lot of Twitter fights over coming out against that, unfortunately, but whatever. It happens. If you say stuff that's anti-Q on Twitter, people that basically it's a shit show. That's what happens.
Yeah. You get called a shill.
Yeah, instantly.
It's like, oh, you're a shill because you're standing up against an anonymous person on an anonymous board who could be anybody.
She's literally just posting questions and random crap. Yeah.
Yeah, well, the whole trust POTUS thing, that should have been like the red flag.
Exactly.
Trust the plan should have been the red flag.
Basically,
that's what I mean. Like,
it seems
trust
to me
the plan. That sounds like a CIA like.
There you go.
Phrase.
The first one to push that narrative that Trump would attack the deep state is Alex Jones in the 2015, 2016. He was pushing that narrative. And
that's because he had the same source that I did, Steve Pachenik.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. That was interesting. I think, but it's interesting, too, because I think overall what Q does, whether it's like a deep state thing, whether it's, a group of people that are just insane, whatever it is, it functions to keep people from getting out their pitchforks and burning down the Capitol. You know what I mean? Like, actually, doing, I'm just saying, like, doing a yellow vests, because there is so much rightful rage across America that I feel like what this does is it diffuses kind of the MAGA crowd. It stops them from getting violently angry when the Trump administration fails them inevitably. So honestly, I think that's what it functions as, is just an opiate to calm them down.
It's funny that you say that because the Q movement is now trying to co-opt the Yellow Vest movement.
I did not know that. That's interesting.
Oh, yeah. They started trying to make Yellow Vests that say Q on them. I'm like, oh, God.
That's so awful.
I'm like, can't you just think of your own things? Can you stop trying to co-op things? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Well, there is a big move in European Yellow Vest also. It is many anti-globalists, right? So they are actually trying to do that by saying like, yeah, Trump is like a nationalist, and it really works for them to use that. But you're right.
Unfortunately,
yeah.
Unfortunately, it really works for them. Unfortunately,
yeah.
Well, it's like the German army coming up on the border and with their tanks and everything, and blasting on the loudspeaker that they're not going to attack. And, no, 10 or 15% will believe them. I mean, that's why they do it, because it actually works. Even if you're in the military. I mean.
Oh god, that was funny.
Yeah,
Did that actually happen?
Yeah, no, it's serious.
I thought that actually happened. Yeah, I was thinking. I was like, yeah, that's probably something they did.
Yeah, it scrambles up and confuses the weaker-minded folks, and that's all they need. It's like, hey, they said they weren't going to attack. They'd be shooting at you, but hey.
Didn't they hijack radio stations during World War II, and they were broadcasting propaganda, or was that the U.S. doing that? Somebody did that. I know that.
BBC did that too.
Yeah, both sides.
Yeah.
So it was both sides doing it.
Yeah. By also dropping flyers, leaflets, and stuff, right, from airplanes and
zip guns, over Poland.
Huh, that's interesting. I didn't know that they did that.
Yeah,
I didn't know they dropped leaflets on a plane.
Yeah, no, they dropped a single shot 9mm guns that were made out of basically just aluminum, and in hopes that they would revolt over there in Poland.
Interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah.
And then when they did, they didn't back them up. That was the other part of that story.
I know they did that in Cuba, where they hijacked radio stations and broadcasted propaganda. I didn't know they did that in Germany, to be honest with you. But it doesn't surprise me.
No, Americans did it too in Europe. Just asking people to revolt and saying it's over anyway. Revolt now and help us conquer this whole stuff. Yeah. And the alternative little protest magazines they already had, like the underground publications, they would drop them from the air too. Yeah, it's true, especially in France too. Yeah. I do think what Elizabeth said about the whole Q thing is true. That people are actually looking for a leaders or a messiah, and so they don't have to do it themselves.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Q, of course, won't do anything. Just keep it in a controlled narrative, and then so it eventually dies out again.
And then a new one pops up. For a while it was, George Webb, and then it was Q, and who knows what will be next. But I think the same thing applies to some supporters of people like Bernie Sanders, where he kind of backstabbed his supporters. He didn't stand up to the DNC for cheating him, et cetera, et cetera. And you can argue back and forth about why. It doesn't even really matter at this point. It's just the fact that he did it. So there's no indication that he would stand up for his supporters if he was cheated again. And yet you have all of these supporters of Sanders who are just blindly following him again, and it's like a cult of personality, and I think that's really dangerous. At least it's counterproductive at the very least.
Agreed.
Definitely, that cult of personality syndrome is kind of definitely not limited to one side or the other politically, for sure.
Oh no! And then when you talk about child trafficking, that people think that that's all Democrats. You're in for a surprise.
Yeah.
You're in for a surprise because it's on both sides of the aisle. This type of society goes on within the elite, and it's going on for years. They think they're above the law. They think that. I don't know how they think this, but they somehow think that molesting a child is a form of entertainment. And that's the sad, sick truth. Paul Benassi talked about Bohemian Grove years before anything was known about Grove from Alex Jones. Okay. Paul Benassi said that they filmed snuff films there where they would force two kids to have sex, and then they would kill one of them in the end of the film. That's what a snuff film is. And, you know, they sell these types of films on the dark web, believe it or not, for $10,000 a pop, okay? Guess who's buying them? It's not the poor people. It's the rich, and it's the rich who have money.
Yeah, that was kind of like what I saw when I saw that. I didn't know that. I thought that red rooms were like a myth. They were like a fairy tale. They didn't exist until somebody actually showed me a link to one of these things, and it was equivalent to 60 bitcoins at the time. That was around $12,000 for a bitcoin. So it was about 60 bitcoins just to watch it. Yeah.
I don't know if you should be saying admitting that you watched that.
Oh, I didn't. I never watched it. I just saw the link to see if it was like legit, and there was like
okay.
There was like
I was like,
oh no,
wait, you paid for this?
I don't have that kind of money. What the hell are you talking about? No.
Well, years ago, 60 Bitcoin wasn't that much.
Yeah, but
whatever there's a market for, people will pay for it. People will deliver it. There was a guy, he came to our server, Tyler. I don't know if you remember that, but he was doing these kind of shows on the dark web too, and he was doing like a puppet show with dead animals.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah, he was like putting like dead animals on strings and doing like a puppet show, and he was literally asking money for that, like $300 or something for a private account.
Fuck?
And he was from Lithuania. And he was actually doing that stuff. And yeah, I don't know. No one of us actually paid to visit it, but he was actually allegedly inviting us to do that. I don't know. Whatever there's a market, there are some people looking for that stuff, and there's always someone who provides it. And yeah, these red rooms are real too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's people fucked up out there that they're so fucked in the head. They want to see this type of extreme, disgusting imagery, and they'll pay for it. It's like something in their head. They get off on it, like on the dopamine level. You know, they get off on seeing it. And I mean, it's absolutely mind blowing and insane to me. But when I was hunting pedophiles years ago with Report a Pedo, and we dug into a Brazilian church. I think it was a priest. I'm pretty sure it was a priest, but I could be wrong. Anyway, he was involved with the church, and the shit that I saw was just I can never ever hunt pedophiles again, because it was just mind blowing that people would do this to kids.
Brazilian church? Doing what in general?
They were trafficking kids to somebody in Mexico, and then the people in Mexico were filming snuff films of the kids. And one of the pictures that I saw was absolutely heartbreaking, and I can never hunt pedophiles again, because what I saw was so sickening to the stomach. I was just like, oh my God. I was like, I can't believe somebody did that to a child. They gutted him, and it was just absolutely disgusting and horrible to even... I can't believe they sent that in an image, to be honest. I was like, don't you know that, the NSA exists? And it was crazy because it was all in Yahoo email.
What the? That's insane.
Yeah. That's the thing, that this type of stuff goes on, and that's really what I want to get across to people, is that this type of stuff does go on. Peter Scully, one of the dark web's big...
I heard that story. That was one of the ones that, cable news would cover, but it was horrific.
Yeah, but Peter Scully, he's one of the dark web's kingpins when it comes to this stuff. And he's not acting alone. There's other people who are acting with him. Mm-hmm. He's one person, okay? this man ran one of the sickest snuff films providers called No Limits. Okay. Obviously,
Yeah,
he
I
didn't
remember
run it
hearing about
alone.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, obviously he didn't run it alone. These types of providers of these content, they require children to produce their films. How they get children are they usually get them from third world countries, or they'll get them from Child Protection Services, CPS. This type of content does go on, and it's some of the sickest shit that I've ever seen. When I was hunting pedophiles in their emails and everything, like, no, that's why I can't do it anymore. I quit years ago because after that incident, I was just hunted and horrified by that image. I was just like, I couldn't believe that there were such sick people out there in the world that would do that. But that was a real wake-up call.
Yeah, I can't imagine, but it I think goes to show the type of people that are in positions of power in society in terms of having the money to pay for that type of thing. From what you're saying, and I think people like Caitlin Johnstone have done a really great job talking about the way in which our societal structure is built in a way that benefits. It's like, evolutionarily, it sort of benefits psychopaths and sociopaths in moving up the ladder of power. And,
absolutely.
And so I think that's why you have situations where people who are literally insane have a lot of money and a lot of power. And that's, when you talk about the prices of these things, I mean, that it all kind of makes a kind of natural kind of sense. So, but it's definitely horrifying.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, like I said, it's like $10,000 a pop, and sometimes even more for these types of snuff films. And like I said, snuff films include somebody dying in the end of the film. Exactly. And it's usually sexually related. So it's usually a forced rape, and then they're killed at the end of the film. And it's absolutely disgusting and sickening, but people pay for this type of quote-unquote entertainment.
Yeah, it has to do with the mindset of these people. Like, we can't even imagine that people would enjoy these things, but there are these people from these elitist people who are actually into this. They are groomed from a young age in such a society that they literally feel like being above normal people. They only respect each other, and we are pretty much like animals or like insects to them within these societies. So it is very different. Like, normal people can never imagine people actually being responsible for genocide, right? How can you even imagine such a thing? Like, who would do this? But there are actually people who do this, and you have to be such you have to look at people in such a dehumanizing way to even be capable of doing this. So yeah,
that's what it is. Yeah, it's about viewing other people as inferior and you being superior, and being able to in a sense watch that type of imagery and essentially, like I said, get off on it with your dopamine from harming other civilians or other people.
Yeah.
And usually it involves children because it's a power thing. It's about power. It's about having power over somebody. Like, you see all this Me Too stuff coming out, but nobody talks about any of the Me Too stuff within the child talent industry, which is way worse.
Or just children in general. There is no Me Too movement for children, which is a huge problem.
Right. Exactly. But what happened?
Go ahead. No, I think it directly ties in with the whole WikiLeaks thing, because they feel they are so superior over us. They feel we're not even allowed to have such knowledge. They will
right.
block this out from us. They feel like we're threatening them. We're spreading knowledge they don't allow us to have. Like they are above us. We can't leak anything about them. We're not allowed to. So they will do anything to completely censor it. Any journalist attached to it.
Well, let me jump on that and support your point. The fact that the Vatican has a secret library that nobody is allowed to enter, nobody's allowed to browse the books. Okay, and you have to know, what you're looking for when you go there to request information. So you can't go there and be like, "Oh, well, I'm interested in this. Do you have anything that's related to this?" No. You have to be very specific on what you're looking for, and you can only request 3 books a day. Or I'm sorry, not a day. 3 books a visit.
Yeah, I had a friend who stood in line for 13 hours and then he was denied. So yeah, I know about it. It is. I'm from Europe, right? And I had a friend who actually went there and tried to get some knowledge, and he was denied after standing in line for 13 hours. So,
That's insane.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. They're hiding human history from us, all under the Vatican, and it's just like, oh, you're not allowed to know this information. Only we're allowed to know this information. See, I want to see a whistleblower come out of the Vatican and leak every single document and book within the Vatican.
Well,
I would
wonder,
love to see that.
I would assume one reason that's difficult or impossible would be because it hasn't all been digitized, right? So they can't just like leak documents the way that you could at the NSA or something like that. At least I would guess. Maybe they have digitized. I don't know.
No, you got it. No, you got it. It's not digitized. In order to do something like that, they would need to literally like smuggle out all the books in the middle of the night, past all the security.
Yeah, not quite as easy as sneaking a thumb drive out of some place, you know.
Yeah, no, not so much. None of it. I would just like to see something come out of the Vatican Library, though, like some type of thing that contradicts our current human history. I would just love to see that, but it probably will never happen because the people who are entrusted with operating the Vatican Library are like people who've been in the Vatican for like 20, 30 years, maybe 40 years. You know, they're old. They're loyal.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're talking about books. There might be some of them might be thousands of years old. You're talking about books taken from the library in Alexandria, in Constantinople too. It was also burned, and they actually took knowledge from there and they put it in safekeeping there. And there is a lot of stuff there for sure. I mean, human history, builders of ancient buildings, right, and such things. So, yeah.
My favorite is the whole archaeological cover-up of various pyramids that are under the ocean.
The Yonaguni in front of Japan, I think is that. On the water are some pyramids too.
Yep. Under Japan, there's some off the coast of Peru. Where else? Australia, I think. I think there's some pyramids off the coast of Australia.
What's that place near the Ukraine? It starts with a C, I think.
Crimea.
Yeah, Crimean pyramids.
Yep. Yeah, the Crimean pyramids are older than the Jurassic period, which doesn't make sense. That would mean that that humans were around at the same time as the dinosaurs, which would be a complete mind blower.
Sometimes these aging this aging is incorrect when there is like a disaster or whatever, and there is like there is a disaster or like a nuclear something or like an explosion or like a comment or something. It can mingle with the dates, so we never know what is actually true dating behind some things.
Well, I know they found a bean that was a tiny creature within the Crimean pyramids, and they've also found those beans in South America, and in was it 2013 whenever Sirius, that movie Sirius with Stephen Greer was released, they did an experiment on a bean called Atma that was exactly the same as the beans that they found in South America and that they found in the Crimean pyramids. So, yeah, they found an actual alien being, quote unquote alien. We don't know what it is. But the official report of the Sirius movie was that it was inconclusive. Now, fun fact, the Sikha Temple shooter actually shot the director of the film, director's father of the film Sirius, to death, and he was killed. The shooter was actually connected into military intelligence. Make of that what you will.
Yeah, I only have one thing, and that is we don't know if these creatures are aliens. Of course, maybe they existed before humans or something, or once lived together or something with humans. I don't know.
Well, I use the word alien as we can't define what it is. It's alien to us,
Yeah. Well, with the whole pyramid thing, I mean, it's pretty obvious that one time in history there was like a civilization putting pyramids all over the world, and they were pretty much global. So that's it. And
I think it'll be very interesting when the mountains in India start melting, and when the mountains in Antarctica are starting to melt. I think people will be mind blown and be like, holy shit, there's pyramids here. Because Antarctica used to be rainforests. The Piri Reis and the Oranagus Finnegas maps both show...
About 10,000 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, they both show Antarctica as a rainforest. And if you go back further than that, with the whole Pangea thing, all these continents were connected together. So it kind of does make sense that somebody or something built pyramids all around the place.
Yeah, it also has to do with the origin of humans, because you see like the first traces of humans like in Africa, in the south of Africa, and you have the Aboriginals.
Oh, nonsense! Yeah, no, not nonsense.
Yeah, and you have in South America, so maybe they traveled from that area, Antarctica or something.
Right. Yeah, right. Yeah, the first civilization was in Africa, as we said before in the last show that got censored. Go figure, right? It got censored probably because we talked about that, to be honest.
I don't know. They shouldn't censor that kind of stuff. I mean, well, what is the purpose behind it? It only makes us freak out and talk more about it. So,
I'm just speculating, but I mean, it was just funny that we were saying we're going to get censored because we talked about that, and then censorship.
Yeah.
Speaking about censorship, I heard a rumor that the Facebook app might be removed from the App Store because of this new policy that they have. They're going to remove apps from the App Store that use screen recording code.
Screen recording code?
Well, if you use Facebook and you know how it works. Facebook does log when you're hovering over something and clicking on stuff, so they do fit in that category. In fact, so much so that last week their iOS developer certificate was revoked for 3 days because of that whole shit that they were doing with the teens, where they were actually asking them they were going to give them money in order to steal their data on their phones. And it's kind of weird that they were doing that because
absolutely.
Facebook lied on its first quarter report that its user base was going up, Well, that's a complete fucking lie, because there was a new study done a few days ago where only 50% of teens, which is a majority of the user base of Facebook, are on it. And in 2012, 94% of teens said that they had a Facebook account. They're actually losing accounts on there. Most of them are moving towards Instagram and Snapchat and instant video, and I believe that was a ploy to try and see what they can do to revamp the platform and not let it die out. But for sure, even Apple's did revoke their certificate for 3 days. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Apple didn't. I mean, if Facebook didn't change its policy, that they would remove them off the App Store, completely.
Wow. That's crazy.
With their most recent numbers, because they came out with these numbers right after the big economic numbers with Microsoft and Google and eBay and all that. But even in their interviews, they were asked, I forget which CEO it was, but they were asked, well, how many of those new users are bot networks, are fake accounts, are business accounts, or that? And they said, well, we really don't have a way to tell that. And the journalist was alluding to the fact that you guys are pretty much cooking the numbers, right? You don't have that many new people coming on your network. They're just new users coming on the network. And I would think it's very unlikely that they can't tell the difference, or don't have that set up that they can't tell the search habits of another AI. I really don't believe it.
Oh, yeah.
That's crazy.
Yes, Facebook actually has a group dedicated to analyzing behaviors and patterns, and that's kind of how they can identify you if you're trying to be hard to identify on a network via using different ways to hide your identity. But yeah, Facebook is very well aware of who and what is on their is on their platform.
Yeah, they reported, or not reported, they suspended probably about 20 of my accounts and said that it was a fake account. And I emailed them back and was like, I'm an independent journalist who likes to keep my anonymity. I said, what you're doing is dangerous. And they actually, one of the times I got unsuspended, and then I got resuspended again. But
they've never.
Somebody over there had a heart.
Yeah, I've tried so many, like, every time we get suspended or blocked or censored or whatever, I write them letters and go through the whole fucking process, and they have never unblocked me. That whole, you're being, or you can't, you're using that function wrong or illegally, or whatever that pop-up is that they send you, that no matter how many times you put, I'd like to rebuke this, they never do it.
Well, Twitter accused me of being a robot recently. Probably a few days ago, I was completely blocked from Twitter.
Yes,
no,
yeah,
I'm not a robot.
That's a new thing that's been going around, is they've been asking accounts that don't have phone numbers affiliated with it to verify if they have a phone number on there. There's a flaw in that logic, mainly because there are people that are less inclined to have, or who are less fortunate to have cellular service to have accounts, so they cannot.
That's what I emailed them.
Yeah, they can't legally require somebody to have a cell phone to
right,
and yeah, to have an account. And people thought that you could get around it by using VoIP numbers, but a lot of times those get blocked anyway. So they're basically telling you that you have to go out, buy a plan, get a cell phone or get a burner phone, and you got to spend money to get an account, which is completely illogical,
Well, you can't even use a burner phone because it'll expire, and then you'll be fucked out of your account.
And, for people that live out, we have to use satellite because there isn't high-speed internet where we're at, and they don't count, because satellite uses VoIP. They don't count that as an actual phone number, even though that's our phone number.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. Damn, I didn't think of that.
Oh, it's been fuck Facebook. I don't know if we've said that enough on this show.
I could never say that enough.
It's true.
Every week it's a new thing.
Delete Facebook.
Well, yeah,
join any other social network. Join the social network that I'm working on, because guess what? There will be no censorship. SoMe Social. I'm gonna plug it again. SoMe Social.
Please get off of Facebook while you still can.
I'm also working with BitChute trying to get them on the blockchain, so that should be fun.
I mean, blockchain, there's so many advantages. I really wish that more people, even when you hear like the tech industry, they mention it on the way by, and not that, a lot of the games that the oppressors play in hiding money and information and all of that is undone by blockchain. And yeah,
bingo.
That it needs.
Bingo. Yeah, that's exactly right. Because blockchain validates transactions. If we put all of these big firms like Goldman Sachs, Bain Capital, all in the blockchain, I bet you their fraud will decrease. Because guess what? It'll be very publicly visible for everybody to see.
Yeah, I mean, immediately you're going to be like, wait a minute, these numbers don't add up.
Yeah. That would be funny.
There's the fear of what's called the ripple effect in funding. So when it comes to dark money, black money, right? Money that you want to spend but don't want anybody to know about, you can make the actual program a black program. But where those people spend the money, where you buy parts, where you buy nuts, bolts, paint, all of that stuff, that is very visible inside of just how business works. And one
bingo, yeah.
I can't tell that you're working on this new plane, but I can tell from the ripples of the things that you have bought what you're building. If that makes any sense, if that makes sense to you guys. I can't.
Oh yeah, that makes 100% sense.
That you had a black program in South America. I can tell the helicopter that you bought, the machine guns that you bought, the bullets. Even if yourself is under a black program, that money is still in the economy, and because of blockchain, we can see it.
Yeah, they would never put any of that stuff on the blockchain.
Well, they don't.
Well, Steam they can't censor the blockchain, but they did. They have been editing out stuff that they don't want you to see on their platform.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so that's actually the UI interface of Steemit.com, but the actual Steam blockchain still has that information, and you can view it through another UI. But you're right. Yeah, some of the UIs for Steemit are Steemit, the actual blockchain, or Steam. Steam the blockchain, not Steemit. Steam the blockchain are actually starting to censor content that is on the Steam blockchain.
Well, that was what, I know we went over it a couple of times, but that was some of the stuff we saw with the Dark Overlord in places that normally, because of blockchain, because of that, you wouldn't be able to censor. They were able to keep it out of some of the public eye. I mean, not really, but at least the outward illusion.
Yep. But I thought that was very interesting what you said as far as tracking what the government's purchasing, as opposed to the programs themselves.
Well, yeah, you can't audit them. Well, you spent $1 trillion on something. You can't really tell what they spent it on. But because of this, you can tell the ripples inside of the economy, inside of that money, where it was going, who took it, why they took it, all that starts becoming very apparent.
Right. Now, in regards to black projects, recently, well, not really recently, but over the past couple years, it's been starting to come out that the Pentagon has a secret UFO project where they've been watching these unidentified flying objects, and
they came out.
It's not crazy anymore.
Yeah, wasn't there an ex-guy from the Navy? He came out and they showed a video on was it fucking the Clown News Network, CNN, and they showed an object at 35,000 feet rotating in every fucking direction on its axis.
Yeah, that came from ironically, that came from who's that Blink-182? I forget his name now. Tom DeLonge. That came from Tom DeLonge's To the Stars initiative.
There's a couple of guys that have celebrities that have really gotten deep into that. Our guy from Ghostbusters. Goodness, what is What is his name? Sorry, it's midnight.
Oh, you mean
Bill Murray?
Bill Murray?
Yeah. First, get a whole series. No. Sorry.
Chevy Chase?
Dan Aykroyd?
Aykroyd. God, I know.
Oh, gee.
Sorry, brother. But yeah, Dan Aykroyd, and he does. I mean, the real, every resource that he could get a hold of, even some things that were confided in him by astronauts and scientists that were in those fields. And I think even in his, he's only done the one documentary, and that was about disclosure. Super cool. If you guys get a chance to look it up.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
The thing is, like, you know, a lot of places well, still to this day, you know, publishing and talking about stuff like that can end your journalism career. You know.
I was gonna say that same thing, Tyler. I was gonna say when I was starting out as an independent journalist, I was told never to touch the UFO subject. I was told that if you touch the UFO subject, you're going to ruin your own credibility, right? The UFO subject, for me, I think has expanded my credibility because I have, over the years, I've had people send me documents and just link me to information, and I was just like mind blown. I was just like, whoa, what? This has happened? Like, there's the Rendlesham Forest incident that actually, I forget, it took place somewhere in the EU.
Yeah, that was in England, and the device, it landed on 2 occasions, and it was recorded. The audio was recorded on a cassette, and these were 2 officers in the woods, and they actually touched the goddamn thing.
And we're pretty sure we're all talking about the same incident. This one was also the reason that it became such a big issue is because whatever these objects were affecting our nuclear weapons.
Yes, that's what they were defending.
Bingo.
They had a nuclear missile base out there.
Yeah, I've had a source over the years who's reiterated this multiple times that has said that if any type of nuclear event was to break out, it probably wouldn't work because these beams or devices or whatever they are, they've been disabling nuclear weaponry for years on the record since the Cold War.
Well,
so
we know about EMPs, what we know about microwave radiation, even the aerial denial systems that they use now affect electronics. So I mean, there's 2 ways that this could be. The military loves to test, to test its own. It's one of the unidentified flying object means just that, unidentified. So I mean, your first step should always be it's a U.S. government program, and they love to test those things on the jets, on the things that they would like to affect. So I mean, the U.S. government would love to be able to shut off nuclear weapons. Did they have the ability to do it over a small area? Maybe, and that would have been a good way to test it. So I mean, aliens is always like your farthest jump, right? Most of the time, I would say, almost all of the time, when you look up into the sky, something that you can't describe, it is military technology. That's just the truth of the matter.
I would disagree with that. I would say that it's probably a mix between being potential ETs and being military technology. Some of these sightings are just unexplainable. That we don't have that type of technology, to my knowledge, to be able to do some of the things. Is it possible that we have secret black projects that are working on, drones that can move this fast? Maybe. I remember that there was an incident in China where a UFO hit a plane and it left a huge dent in the front of the plane, and the video outside of the plane showed an object that was moving so super fast that the naked eye could not tell what it was. It was just insane.
I mean, if you look at something like even the F-16. I mean, the F-16 is moving at the Mach 3, right? So I mean, that's 3 times the speed of a bullet, right? That's starting to get into the range where you blink and you have no idea what you just saw. I always go back to the B-117, right? If you go back to the 80s and 90s, everyone, that saw UFO saw a black triangle, right? 3 lights under it that didn't come up on radar. You'd call your local radar place, and they would tell you there is nothing in the sky, right? And they weren't lying because, well, it's a stealth bomber. It makes very little sound when it goes over you. Unless it comes right up on top of you, you wouldn't hear it. And that was also one of the things that people described, was that it didn't make any sound when it went by them.
Even Gary
McKinnon,
said that when he was hacking the Pentagon and NASA, he said that he was looking for evidence of ETs, and he said he found what he was looking for.
I would get. When I say that, right, I'm saying my belief in aliens is not shaken in any way, shape, or form. But the technologies that I've been exposed to through my lifetime have always been very terrestrial, right? Even the really cool stuff always turned out to be very terrestrial. Things that we see, like the jet engine, right? Why would the only technology that the only propulsion that you brought to our planet only works in our atmosphere? That doesn't make any sense, right? Jet engines are great for moving around on Earth, really bad at moving around anywhere else. Things like that do put me to either the technology is outside of our grasp, or most of the technology that you see is very terrestrial. I would say that the distances and technology that's involved, if you thought that it was magic, right, that would be alien technology. If you look at it and say it's a jet engine, which is really just fossil fuels compressed and exploded, not so much. The stealth bomber seems like alien technology because it's black and triangular, but in all actuality, the reason it doesn't get picked up on radar is because it's shaped in little triangles. That's it.
Now, did you ever hear of Edgar Fouché and the TR-3B?
Not right off.
That's an old one.
If you look into that, that's where you'll start to believe a little bit more of the black projects that are working towards a quote unquote secret space program, because the TR-3.
Doubt about that. What I mean, even to the push that people say that we may have bases on Mars and other places, much more like than the alien technology, unfortunately. At least from what I've seen. You know what I mean?
Hey, guys, I gotta interrupt you for a second. I think our guest has something to say.
Right, yeah, no, thank you guys for having me. I'm gonna head out now, but it's been a pleasure to speak with you all. And I just wanted to say that just like to let your listeners know, for any of them who aren't familiar with Disobedient Media, that they can find us at Disobedient News on Twitter. They can look us up at disobedientmedia.com. They can find me on Twitter at Elizabeth Lea Vos, and they can also find us all over other social media websites like Steemit, justinform.com, and all sorts of other places. So I appreciate you all taking the time to speak with me. So
well, thank you so much.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming, Elizabeth.
All right. Talk to you later. Bye.
Have a good night.
You too.
All right. Sorry, I interrupted you, Terrence.
Needed to be no. That's a discussion, not really an interruption. You know what I mean? Nothing that I'm saying is. I could be so fucking wrong on every single one of those topics, right?
Well,
that's hard. That's how compartmentalization works, right? They make it so that the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
On top of that, there is a disinformation campaign inside the armed forces, outside of the armed forces. There's all sorts of reasons why you would try to hide it. So, I mean, this is completely just the opinion from what I've seen. And I am not I don't think anybody's an expert specifically on black projects beyond their one black project.
Yeah. One of my sources, who's no longer with us, leaked me a whole bunch of information in regards to the existence of a secret space program. And if you read the article, you'll go through it and you'll see all of this information, and you'll just be mind blown of all the times that the military said they were going to work on a secret space program, and then they canceled the funding for the projects, which it doesn't make sense to me if you would work on something for a year or so, and then all of a sudden cancel the project. I don't think it was canceled. I think it went into, production, and it went into underground black projects.
Well, I mean, if you look at Project Blue Book, they tell us, and it gets a new name every 10 years, 20 years or so, and they tell us, oh, well, we canceled, we're no longer looking into it, but it's never been canceled, and they always have a extraterrestrial investigation unit. That's a fact.
Right.
But they're always, oh, well, we're not working on that project anymore, and it just goes to black status. And you are, but you get that unlimited budget that you need to work in space production. The main trillions of dollars that it takes to build any of that, isn't something that can be done through our standard economy. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah. The main scientist of Project Blue Book, I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
The guy, he eventually started believing that UFOs were real, right? That guy?
He came out in his deathbed and said that, Blue Book was a sham. And it's funny because not only did he say that, but years later, after he was involved in Blue Book, he actually started a UFO institute.
Yeah, there was another guy. He was the lead engineer for Lockheed Martin, and he worked on a bunch of stuff with Skunk Works and Black Projects. And on his deathbed, he released a video with a bunch of pictures saying that UFOs were real. And he had a bunch of pictures in the video too. And I'm like, and it was on a VHS tape, and it was kind of hard to deny that any of this was faked.
Yeah.
Lockheed Martin, the Skunk Works specifically themselves, has came out and made some statements that, I mean, you'd have to want to not hear it. You know what I mean? Like they went as far as they could and not say, hey, we have this aircraft or this object or whatever. But they definitely have programs that are far beyond what you would, I don't know, consider.
Do you remember a guy that was going around in the 90s saying that he worked for Area 51, and he was talking about the propulsion systems, and he was talking about an element that we didn't even know existed
David.
until 2013. It was ununtonium.
Okay.
David Lazar.
Yeah, and
Bob Lazar, yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is that ununtonium wasn't even a thing in the 90s. That we didn't even know that anything existed beyond so many elements in the periodic table. So what what I'm saying is that how could a guy in the mid 90s know about an element that hasn't even been invented yet?
There was that and the scanning machines that they had. So when he first came out to prove who he was, he talked about some of the technology to get in and out. He said he didn't see a lot of stuff, but they had a machine that read you put your hand on it, scanned it, and let you into the room or the section that you were supposed to be in. And that existed all together. And then, lo and behold, government patent and all of that stuff. What he was describing was the thumb reader, fingerprint scanner that we use to get, pretty commonly now.
Yep.
Exactly what he was describing, and I mean, and this is literally, 15 years before anybody was talking about it. Even if you look at sci-fi, that wasn't something that was involved, right? The bioscanners and all of that stuff. But it was something he talked a lot about, and it's been proven through that time that, yeah, that's where it came from. And yeah, he would have been some of the first people to see it, to be exposed to it. So whether all his story is true, I don't know, but a lot of it seems to have panned out through the time.
Yeah, he also got into trouble recently, which was kind of weird. He got into a business that was that dealt with nuclear materials, and this was post what he said was working with the government, and he got into a lot of trouble, and he said it was the government trying to go after him for exposing all of the shit that he had said earlier in the 90s.
Yeah, and there's been a couple of attempts on his life, sometimes where he's been shot at, threatened. There's been, and from people that really have no reason to. The people that that are going to threaten you because of Area 51. That's just not really something that, that you would get outside of people that are connected to Area 51. Nobody outside of that's going to send you death threats. You know what I'm saying?
It's more S4 than Area 51. That's the thing. A lot of people.
Well, there's Area 52, which is I think is in Utah, right?
Yeah, that's the new one, right? Well, not new, but that's where they're supposedly that's where everything's going on now.
You won't find all of those plots on Google Maps, but you can find the plots on different maps that aren't related to Google, because Google has an agreement with the United States military to not post things.
There's
Yep.
In Missouri as well. I always go through this. If you know the name of it, it's not a secret program, right? So, I mean, that's always been the places that we know research is going on, that's all very external research.
Well, in the 60s and 70s, all over New Mexico, they had contractors that were building stuff underground.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't know that either, and that's where,
and we're not
in a way, it links to Phil Schneider. His claims, where he said that there was underground military bases. That's not unbelievable because of what you just said. A lot of people don't know that they were working on that in the 60s.
Yeah.
And a lot of these, they cleared out big caverns to get uranium in some cases. There's all sorts of weird games that they've played and weird bases, secret torture facilities. Guantanamo is not the only one kind of thing.
Yep. No, there's other black sites.
Yeah, there was
all over the fucking place.
There was another one I was aware of in Illinois. It was called Argonne Labs, and apparently that's not just a laboratory that's affiliated with biopharmaceuticals. Apparently, there's a lot of black ops stuff going on out there too.
They probably test pharmaceuticals on them.
Well, no, what I heard is nuclear stuff.
Oh.
Well, speaking of, I think it's hilarious how they're making this huge deal about the nuclear treaty, and we have to, all just walk around and act like we don't know the U.S. government has got secret nuclear testing and facilities out there. It's like the you guys aren't adhering to the nuclear, biological, and chemical weapons deals. Well, no shit. Got an 8-story underground nuclear, biological, and testing facility. What the fuck do you think we're doing in there?
Pet animals.
I also think it's not just the government. I mean, you also have to look at the corporate, because they want to have all these patents and stuff and these secret inventions and make a lot of money with it. They will have a lot of secret stuff too.
Well, I would argue there's no difference.
No, maybe not. Lockheed and stuff. They will have a lot of secret bunkers with secret inventions, prototypes, and
that's all military-industrial complex. That's a whole bubble right there. That's the whole bubble of military-industrial complex. It's like government, subcontractors.
Yeah, look, if there's a chemical weapon made in America, it's made by Monsanto, no doubt. You don't have to look at the numbers, right? I mean, that's it. Who else makes our weapons of mass destruction?
And who else makes our food?
Yeah, it's definitely mass destruction, Monsanto. I mean, yeah, this doesn't always have to go with the bombs. It happens with the food too.
Well, Monsanto was the first, or not the first. Monsanto helped with the atom bomb.
Oh, I'm sure they did. If there is death and destruction, Monsanto is there, right, ready to go.
All suited up.
Yeah.
No, they were involved with the PCBs, and they were involved with helping the atom bomb. They were involved with, let's see.
It's
Agent
Bayer
Orange.
now.
Agent Orange. Now. Yeah, that's the thing. They're involved with all this death and destruction, like Terrence said. It's insane.
Hey, it's a chemical
Anybody
plant,
trust them with our food? Why would you trust a company like that with your food?
What do you guys do? We poison people. Oh yeah, that's who I want. That's who I want working on my food.
I mean, the fact that it's Bayer now, that's the worst company you can have. It was IG Farben in World War II is responsible for literal genocide. It is, and the fact that Monsanto was embedded by this company, that shows everything. I mean, why would that it even allows to be embedded by
Like right now, they've merged with Bayer and bought Blackwater. That's all. Like if you add corporate corruption, that's all for.
Wait,
yeah,
what?
Bayer tried to sell. Yeah, Bayer tried to sell tainted blood. You know.
Yeah, the hemophiliac thing. I remember that.
Yeah.
Oh, God. That way they can go after all the water protectors, and they don't have to contact anybody. It's all within the company.
That's a good one.
Anto.
These are psychopaths, like real psychopaths. I think we can safely say that.
I think I'm not sure if you guys saw, but they gave our new reason for staying in Iraq is to make sure that Iran doesn't have weapons.
Oh, yes, I read about that. Yep.
That's like murdering everybody in an apartment complex to make sure that the people in the next apartment complex don't murder anybody. It's like the government literally came in and said, "We just want to watch. We just want to
watch.
Just want to make sure you guys aren't doing anything. We destroyed Iraq, didn't find any weapons of mass destruction, but we are sure they're in Iran."
We're sure. The funny thing is that before Ronald Reagan, I think it was Ronald Reagan, I believe it was Ronald Reagan, before his election, they gave chemical weapons to Saddam Hussein under...
Yeah, to fight the Kurds.
Rumsfeld was shaking his hand.
Yeah.
But yeah, he had the key to Chicago, I think it was.
Saddam did?
Yeah, Saddam, I think it was the key of Chicago that he did. We really liked him there in the beginning.
Wow.
Yeah, they gave him the chemical weapons to basically go after his own people. But now we're complaining about Assad.
Well, it's one of those things like, okay, there is only really one country that sells chemical weapons. So it's what you can dislike the Russians as much as you want, but they don't sell their enemies chemical weapons. We do that.
Well, our frenemies. Remember, they're our friends, and then they're our enemies. Jeez, tongue twister. Woo!
That leaving the nuclear the nuclear weapons treaty is not that we were doing anything different. We violated the crap out of it from the very beginning. But now we can build more nuclear weapons because you're scared, right? You need to run directly to Halliburton. Right? You need to run directly to your nearest military-industrial complex representative to start pumping money into weapons that we don't need.
I think they're going to go the way of quantum weapons for sure. I don't think they're going to do nuclear weapons anymore. I think they're going to go more for direct energy type weapons.
Point, who the fuck cares? Once you can destroy everybody on the planet, does it matter if you can do it twice? So at a certain point, it's like, okay, you can destroy the entire world. Next, right? We can do something else, but at that point, it doesn't really become. You can't destroy the world. You can't destroy the world completely 3 times. We got enough weapons now to destroy 1,000.
Well, you do everything in triplicate at least in the government, so you have to be able to do it at least 3 times. That's a minimum.
To be honest, like even when it comes to nuclear war, if you fuck that up the way that you fucked everything else up, there's no doubt the reason it hasn't came about. They've never been able to accomplish anything.
Yeah, that's always been something that I've looked at, like how Congress can't really accomplish anything, or at least the past couple Congresses couldn't accomplish anything. It's just been like constant bickering, and then behind closed doors. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Go
ahead. I was going to cut you off. Go ahead.
Okay, then behind closed doors, they're all buddy-buddy. That's all I wanted to say.
The most disrespectful thing we have going on right now is a golf clap. That is what the Democratic Revolution looks like. A golf clap.
A what?
A golf clap. That was what Nancy Pelosi
yeah.
Gave him an elitist bourgeoisie fucking golf clap.
Hey, do you think the government's going to shut down in a week?
Yeah, probably.
Probably, yeah, me too.
Yeah. Well, that's what they do at all those clubs we don't get to go to, Terrence.
If the government shuts down again, the IRS will have to put itself into the category of never being able to catch up to its work, because they said that they're already like They will need a year or two to recover. So, if it shuts down again, they're going to need fucking...
Look, I'm willing to give them a little bit of time to process what they need, but honestly, if it goes more than a week, I'm going to have to start to find them. I don't want to, but that's just the way that the rules are.
Yeah, why should I pay taxes if the government just shuts down whatever it wants and doesn't meet my needs? Why should I have to pay?
If I don't pay my taxes,
exactly,
start fining me. But if you don't pay my taxes, I'm going to have to start fining you.
Because you lay yourself prostrate in front of them. That's why.
Yeah, where's my motherfucking refund,
Oh, you watch how much this is going to... People will be all for it, all the way until those refund stops don't come. And then people are going to be pissed.
Yeah, they're going to give us IOUs,
Hey, that's how we start the revolution. It just occurred to me.
Well, I mean,
people won't get out on the streets for nothing, but they'll get out on the streets for their money.
I did say that Donald Trump is already doing his job and trying to fuck up this country. It's only a matter of time before somebody says enough,
You mean he's not making America great again?
Of course he's not. And everybody before him was doing the same exact shit. It's just, we just elected some guy who just... maximize what everybody was doing a millionfold and making us look retarded on the world stage. It's to the point where it's like, dude, somebody needs to we need to do something different because we obviously can't. Whatever we're doing doesn't work.
Out for us. We really need to do something different.
Well, I guess deregulating Wall Street doesn't work, right? That's going to cause the next economic collapse. I'm waiting for it. Called it. Soon as Trump started deregulating Wall Street, all these different regulations, he was just like, oh.
Well, a lot of it would start at, I have always said it all revolves around money. And, to go to the source, kick out the Federal Reserve because we are a debt-based economy because of them. Because by the time the government gets the banks and the government gets the money, it's already debt-based. Which means that we have to have an IRS and all these weird taxes to steal from the citizens.
That's the plan, though. I mean, that was the plan.
Yeah, that's the real plan, Q.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah, I mean, the deal was to make it so that every dollar you make is always in debt. That's how the Fed was set up. I mean, the Fed isn't set up to help with business, to help you, to help me, right? It's set up to help itself.
It's a debt-based economy, yeah.
Well, it's a private bank. There's nothing federal about it.
Anybody can
That's so true. Yeah, that's so true. It should be called the private federal or the private reserve.
Yeah, when someone says that they're a bank, I'm all like, is there not like a mafioso I can deal with? I prefer my corruption up front.
They've never been audited since they've been established as our main bank.
Central bank, yeah.
Man, they've never been audited. Not once.
Nope, not once. But they're calling for it.
Everybody who calls for it, stop saying it, because I'm pretty sure that they have their goons out to make sure that you shut up about it.
Yeah, what happened to, what was it, Gary? He was a congressman. Geez, he was railing about it forever. I gotta look up what his name was. It was Gary something. And he was always calling for it to be audited. Even Bernie Sanders had said it a couple of times and then kind of stepped away from it.
Because their goons come out. Remember the last guy that tried to get rid of him? They shot him in the head.
Yeah, Trump had tried to come out and talk about it a little bit there in his when he was running for president, but that really faded away about as quick as the money from tax havens did.
Well, there was a recent bill that was just pushed, and it says to audit the Federal Reserve and end the IRS.
I'm both of those things.
Yeah, I'm for both of those things. Will it ever pass? I highly doubt it, but maybe, just maybe, we can trick the politicians into passing it.
Yeah, because they'll sign off on anything.
Exactly. We'll just slip it into another bill.
Oh, you didn't read the fine print, did you?
We put patriotism at the very top. Anything that the government puts out that says patriotism, it's designed to fuck you over, right?
Well, it wasn't patriotism, but yeah, it's a bill that's going through Congress now. Actually, it was pushed in December or January. I can't remember, but it was recent, and Trump said something on it, and he said that he would end the Federal Reserve. And I was like, wait, what? Really? You're going to end the Federal Reserve? All right. Well, if you do that, then I'll forget almost everything that you've done this whole entire time.
Well, like, good on you. Fuck you, but good on you.
Fuck you, good on you.
He's just a talker, man. He talks a lot of shit. But
Yeah, he
ain't done
doesn't. He doesn't push through on anything.
He's not really pushing anything big through that I see. But
He's really good at saying both the positive and negative of whatever he's going to do. He's both going to do it and not going to do it in the same speech.
Well, yeah, he said he's I mean, this goes back a couple of years. He said he's not a globalist. Then he said he was a globalist. Then he had another speech where he said he could be, he's both a globalist and a nationalist. And he's like, well, he just about has it covered, man. I mean, he can be whatever you want him to be.
I can be.
It's like, whatever, God. Dude. You're just full of shit.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a circus, but I think that says, like, I feel bad saying that because I think circuses are much better than what we have going on.
It's an insult to the circus.
real entertainment, not this political science theater of crap,
Well, remember, he was a TV star first.
He's still is.
Well,
you're fired.
Reality star.
Yeah. Yep. Remember, he was a reality TV star with his own show called,
or whatever the hell it was called. Internship.
What the fuck was it called? I can't even remember.
The Apprentice.
The Apprentice, that's it.
Apprentice, yeah, that's it. But anyway, his catchphrase was, "You're fired."
Yep.
Now that
a temp agency working at the White House right now, you get like 2 weeks. You work 2 weeks with the next guy. I wondered if like their name tags and door tags are just like Scotch tape at this point.
They're keeping the guy busy on the engraving machine, man.
There's no way that they're engraving one of those.
Well, yeah, it seems like everybody's position at the White House is like musical chairs. Like, I've never seen such a thing on any presidency. I
think it's got a higher turnover than Burger King at the moment.
Yeah.
Well, he's got a criminal, like Mueller running around, indicting all his friends, and he won't do anything about it. I mean, just, whatever, dude. Yeah.
Don't you hate it when the FBI just goes around arresting your people? That sucks, dude.
Yeah, he won't go after Hillary or any of his true friends. Yeah, it's like, take care of these guys. They just helped me get elected. Fuck them.
I can't, I do think they did Roger Stone a little bit wrong, and I think they were even more, not only did you arrest Roger Stone, but then you expected him not to come out immediately and give a statement. He loves that shit.
Oh, yeah, of course. They gave him perfect press for that, but, I mean, he's going to be facing, 10 years or more?
Yeah,
they stacked 6 or 7 charges there.
See, Michael Cohen was spineless, right? And a lot of the things that I can say about Roger Stone, he's a lot of things, but spineless isn't one of them, right? So we'll see how it goes out. He'll make more money in just the books that he writes going into fucking prison than he would staying out anyway. Who was talking about Roger Stone before this?
Well, the thing is with Roger Stone, I mean, it's ironic because he lied saying that he had a source within WikiLeaks, and then he lied to Congress saying that he didn't email Credico. And the thing is, Credico is not really WikiLeaks. He's actually a third-party source to WikiLeaks. So he probably didn't know too much information on what was going to happen. But the thing is that when they indicted Roger Stone, what they failed to realize is that Assange said prior to, Roger Stone saying that there's going to be leaks, Assange himself said that there's going to be leaks. So, I mean, honestly, I think he has a pretty good defense of that, but I don't think he's got a good defense on lying. I mean, how are you going to... say that. I mean, I guess you could be like, oh well, yeah, I forgot, but.
Yeah, it really changes his like I said, I don't think that it changes his credibility in the circles that he's in. In fact, I think it probably makes him more credible, not truthful. I think he's still full of shit, but to the people that are listening to him and that are into that, right? Really, that doesn't matter. Of course, the FBI is going to start shit with you. Like, I mean, that's not.
I think they started shit with him because of Infowars, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's probably to you guys. I mean, my honest opinion with Roger Stone, with what happened with Alex Jones, that all has to do with Bohemian Grove. That has to do from the very beginning, although he got the boost with Trump and all of that stuff. The reason he was like the hamstrung the way that he was because he exposed Infowars and constantly fucking gave, I think it was, what was it, Lindsey Graham, that he was always giving shit to about it?
Who was? Roger Stone?
No, okay, so I mean, Roger Stone, Alex Jones, right? This is back in the beginning of Infowars, which was his name to fame, was his button up, not Bohemian,
right.
Oh, goodness. The one way up in the forest where they all dance around to that giant owl.
That is Bohemian Grove.
Is it Bohemian? Yeah. I don't know. Whichever satanic sex orgy they have on the weekends. It's hard to... They all look the same to me. Right, but
well, been to one orgy, been to them all.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they exposed that, and they've never let that go. That has really been, you know what I mean. They marked them as people to get rid of ever since that day.
Oh yeah, for sure, because they infiltrated and walked through it completely and filmed things that can never be seen. I mean, can never be forgotten.
I mean, it's hard to deny. Like, you guys are out there giving golf claps and acting like you're enemies, and then you're all dancing around butt crack ass naked in this ceremony in the middle of the forest that you deny even existed. That's weird.
Not only that, but the whole cremation of care ceremony is like fucking mind blowing. It's just like, who wants to cremate care? You know, evil people
with a mock child sacrifice. It's bizarre.
I mean. Well, It's weird. It's not like it's just weird shit.
Well, on that fact, I dug up documents from UC Berkeley, which they really fucking hate that I dug these documents up, and I don't even know why they're on their website, but there are documents on UC Berkeley's website that show elitists torturing kids at Bohemian Grove. Strapping a black kid to a board and carrying him, and there's one with somebody hanging, and yeah.
I think you showed these to me. They were like these older pictures, right? Like from the 60s and stuff.
Yeah, they're from like the 50s or 60s, but the point being is that this mock child sacrifice at one point in time was a real child sacrifice, and the pictures that I saw completely, for me, it validates what Paul Benassi said before Alex Jones even went there, that they were doing these snuff films there, and they were doing these weird rituals and stuff like that. He is the one that brought up Bohemian Grove before Alex Jones ever did. And
did I ever tell you about the owl? What the owl is? There?
Who? The owl is Moloch.
No, it's not. Moloch is a bull. The owl symbol goes back to the Illuminati, but the owl, traditionally in Judeo-Christian demonic lore, is an entity from the Bible known as Lilith, which is the goddess and seducer of lust and sex.
Mm-hmm. Hence why it is a child sacrifice, right?
Yep. There's a story. There's a story about Lilith getting kicked out of the Garden of Eden and meeting with an angel named Samael, and saying that she would create her offspring would attack the sons of Adam.
And that makes them molest children? I don't understand how the demon of sex that had sex with Adam.
Lilith.
Yeah, Lilith, the demon of sex. None of that story had anything to do with children. When did that get in there?
Wait. Lilith is known as the child thief.
Well, yeah, it's traditionally throughout the Middle Ages and in Persia, they used to have Lilith bulls because parents were paranoid about Lilith coming and taking their children in the middle of the night.
Say the word, when you say the word lullaby, you're actually saying Lilith by, which is the songs that you would sing to keep it. Number one is...
Oh, wow. I never realized that, yeah.
So the lullaby, when you say lullaby, you're actually saying Lilith, which is the song that you sing to keep out demons. Some of this has to do with the hugely high infant mortality rate of the ancient world.
But, you know what kind of weirds me out about the story is that the Judeo-Christian story of Lilith is described even previously in the Sumer religion. She's known as Inanna. So the story is much older than the Bible.
Yeah, damn it, you beat me to it.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, I mean, there's a dark history to our leadership, but it's a dark history to the power elite, right? This is the same that, like, it's one of those things. These guys are always doing the same game, right? Just the times change, but the powerful and elite have always taken advantage of children, have always taken advantage of have always been rapists and child molesters. This is normal life for them.
It's sad, but yeah, that's not far off. I mean, if you look back in history from Greece, they also had the Lilith statue as well.
And you all know what happens at Bohemian Grove is there's rumors, this has been going on for as long as I've been researching Bohemian Grove, that they get gay hookers from San Francisco and bring it up there, and they have an orgy for the 2 weeks that they're up there, which also kind of correlates with the Lilith stuff. So like when Alex Jones said it was Moloch, he was totally off, like out in left field. The entity and the owl and the rock is definitely 100% Lilith, and it kind of goes back into the weird owl symmetry in the original Adam Weishaupt using the owl to use it for the symbol of the Illuminati.
The Bavarian Illuminati.
Yep.
You guys have horrible orgies. I'm just throwing that.
2 weeks of orgy. I mean, I don't think I could. Not that I'd do an orgy, but I mean, after a day.
Well, I'm pretty sure. Well, Hunter S. Thompson used to go there. It was rumored, and he used to talk about that it was a drug-filled orgy for like the 2 weeks. So I'm pretty sure that if Hunter S. Thompson is there, there's probably a lot of drugs.
Can you just like normal hookers for us guys that aren't into hardcore gay drug-filled sex? I mean, I'm not against people having hardcore gay sex.
Yeah, there was a weird story that I heard from. I can't cite the source, but I remember hearing an audio interview of one of the old priests that used to go there, and he talked about
priest went there.
Yeah, he was one of the priests.
Here we go.
And he talked about this story about how Bill was going there, and Hillary was flipping the fuck out. And they basically kicked her out, but Bill looked like he was having a good time, and he also talked about Ronald Reagan sitting at one of the tables in the early '90s and just looking like he was uncomfortable, like he didn't want to be there.
How was that? Wasn't the picture of the the original Guccifer leaked?
Yeah.
And it showed a whole bunch of different politicians there at the Bohemian Grove.
Yeah, the Bohemian Grove has been going around since the 1880s. So it's been going on longer than 100 years.
Longer? Yeah.
The worst position to be in is riding on the bus up there and you see a priest and Bill Clinton. This is going to be bad.
Priest and Bill Clinton.
Yeah, everybody from the IMF to anybody who's in politics goes to this ritual whether they want to or not. They're kind of like told that either they go or they don't move up in their positions.
Yeah, that's the whole thing with Kathleen Griggs, who was a wife of a colonel, a top colonel. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, something Griggs, but she came out and she said in the 90s, I believe it was, that all of these types of blackmailing ceremonies go on, and she said that one of the big ones was Skull and Bones. The other one was the Phi Beta. What is it? Phi Beta. What's the last one?
I'm familiar with that Phi Beta. They're mainly on the East Coast, though.
Yeah, well, either or. It's these types of societies or elite societies that blackmail people when they're in college to move up in society.
Yeah.
And she said a lot of it has to do with gay sex, and it has to do with
occults
drugs
and the occult.
occults. Yeah. Her interview is like 5 hours long, by the way. But if you ever get a chance to view it and listen to it seriously, it's one of the most riveting, eye-opening interviews that I've ever listened to. It's very, very hardcore information what she goes into, and she talks about how they use underage sex, they use drugs, they use gay sex, they use all these types of things against a person, so they don't speak about certain plans and stuff like that.
Okay, well, these organizations for these politicians, they're not limited to United States. I mean, in the Netherlands we have Minerva. That's also similar to Skull and Bones.
Minerva means Moloch. I'm sorry for interrupting you, but yeah.
Yeah, well, she's also the Roman goddess of wisdom or something, and strategic warfare. But that's like similar to Skull and Bones in here. I mean, all these elitists go to the same sorority, and they all get like raised to work together. And like pretty much all those important politicians went to this Minerva club, including Deming, right, the pedophile secretary justice. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember him.
That would explain all of the underage male prostitutes.
Yeah.
Y'all are weird. Can we just get some prostitutes? Jesus.
Well, the thing that we're talking about, with occultism and aristocracy, this has been going on since the beginning of time.
Mm-hmm.
They get into, you were mentioning the Romans and the Greeks, even the Spartans got into some really weird, you took a young boy as your apprentice, and it's just fucking weird.
Well, yeah, even Alexander the Great was infatuated with a, what they called, it was an oracle, that prophesies the future, and he was buried near the site near Mount Olympus because that's where he wanted to be buried, near the oracle. There's a lot of weird occultism with power,
The Oracle of Delphi?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yes, because he went down and basically made up his own story. The ruler, there was like a kind of like a legend, that the ruler of the New World would be, would get his direction from the oracle and all of that stuff. So he pretty much went down there and made up his own story for the oracle to tell to him. Like a complete farce of the ancient world. That's hilarious.
Even Hitler and Heim Himmler were infatuated with the occult.
Oh yeah, Hitler and Himmler they were involved in looking for, what is that?
Well, they were a lot of the occult was a lot of the occultism was related to a woman had wrote a book, but a lot of it surrounds Norse mythology,
Yeah, and he needed people to come from somewhere other than Africa, right? So I think they decided on the end, crawled out of the middle of the earth in somewhere in India. Like, it was just weird. Like,
they were connected to the Thrill and Fuel Society.
Yeah.
Thule.
By when we use the word ether universe.
Oh yeah, Thule and Vril.
Well, and Vril, yeah.
Yeah, no, I said it wrong. Yeah, you're right.
So, like, the Vril is this underlying energy that goes through everyone. Look at it like the Force that you could take advantage of.
That's what they believe, though. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I mean, basically, if you want a description, it was the Force. And if you could tap into this ancient energy and ancient man, then you could, power machines and possibly time travel and all sorts of stuff.
Well, they tried doing that with Die Glock.
The Glocker.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yes,
I just knew they had a lot of fucked up experiments.
No, they legit try to build a time machine.
So
I did not know that.
Yeah, they did. They was calling Die Glock.
Glocka, and the translation is Bell. Whether it worked or not, I don't know. There's a couple of spots where supposedly the research for it was taking place. There's a real famous one that, I mean, honestly, what you're looking at is the bottom of a water tower. But the like stories from there are just absolutely awesome if you get a chance to check it out. I don't know about the realism behind it. You know what I mean? Like how much of it is real and how much of it is.
Well, you know, the Nazis were experimenting with mercury anti-levitation stuff, which basically is they spin mercury to the point where it starts to heat up and creating levitation. And
so they were around with forces, some hydroelectric engines that move. They actually have built a couple of these ships that move water past through it like a jet engine would, but it uses no moving parts. It uses nothing but magnetism, but magnets to do it.
Interesting.
That's actually been built, I think, by the Japanese at one point recently in the 90s to prove that it was proof of concept. But
I know.
No, go ahead. There's
I know.
But we could go on forever.
Yeah. No, I know that the Nazis, like years ago when I was looking up stuff on the Nazis and I was looking into stuff, I found a video on Google Video, and I've never been able to find it ever again. But I found a black and white video of the Nazis, and this video showed that the Nazis were looking into psychics and kids, and it showed a video of a kid holding a spoon and bending it, and then there was another one where it showed a kid taking the flame on a candle and putting it out. And yeah, I've never been able to find this video again, but I know that the Nazis were looking into psychics, and they were looking into super soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Russians at the same time were trying to like put together a man-monkey-ape monster.
Yeah, that is true. They did. Yeah, they tried to interbreed monkeys with humans.
Yeah, they even were fertilizing human eggs with monkey DNA. It's a weird story up there, but yeah.
Oh, jeez.
To build like an extremely strong but extremely like placid soldier. So with like, the ability to do everything that a man can, but without the what they thought somehow would have been like the removal of complex thought, which isn't true in monkeys, which is probably one of the reasons it didn't work above all sorts of other ones. But yeah, they were literally injecting monkey spermatozoa into human eggs and doing all sorts of weird research up there to make monkey man super soldiers.
Well, the Nazis also invented methadone and dolophin, but they were doing all sorts of crazy shit. Yeah, to have super soldiers. Yeah, the methadone they called I forget what the actual German word is, but they were on the bottle. I think it said to increase alertness in times of fatigue, and basically they were giving the soldiers meth.
It was one of the reasons that the Blitzkrieg worked so well is because they were able to fight constantly over a several-day period that normally you would be exhausted by.
Yep.
And they accomplished that specifically through meth. The U.S. at the same time was using speed and cocaine. If you look at a lot of old black and white videos, you can see people taking
they call them pep pills.
Yeah, pep pills, taking, basically a line out of a little ring or something on the way by. But yeah, they gave plenty of those kind of drugs to soldiers to keep you fighting. But the Blitzkrieg specifically was fueled by methamphetamine.
Cocaine was already used in World War I. I showed this to Xenu too, this video. They actually they distributed cocaine to all the different fighting parties, not just to one side, but to all parties. And pretty much, they all went insane. And
I remember like hearing stories like that in the 20s. They had a big problem in Europe with the substance, and then everybody thought that this was like an 80s thing. I'm like, no. This has been a problem for a long time.
Since it was invented, really, because they went through and pretty much got this entire generation of soldiers addicted to methamphetamine.
Huh, I didn't know that, actually.
see a lot of soldiers on the way out, you know, when the battles are over, when all of that, and it's not just that they're tired from fighting; they're literally coming, you know, suffering from withdrawals.
Yep.
Wonder if they gave soldiers in Iraq opium from the opioid plants.
Well, you know what they did. Actually, the government did. Like I've heard this from soldiers that come back, is that during the Iraq War, they were handing out energy drinks like consistently to the soldiers to keep them awake.
Those weren't energy drinks, my friend. Those were opium with energy drink mixed.
So if you were over there, right? You would be, you know, with those. I can't tell energy drinks, and I know that Monster and some other ones were big in pilots and all of that. But what was really pushed on soldiers was steroids. So you would come in and everybody would have a lung infection, you know, to have a little cough and whatever, and their fix to that was 1.5 years of steroid use to get you as big and aggressive as humanly possible. So there was a lot of, you wouldn't see it as like, you know, like you would in athletes as steroid abuse, but the doctors were handing out steroids like it was fucking candy. From steroids, right? The hyper aggressiveness, the extra bulk, the muscle mass, because all you have to do all day is eat and work out, right? But they push the crap out of steroids for everything.
Huh.
Feeling a little down, right? You're having you're having problems, you know, with the dust or being sick. You need a steroid regime. That was their answer to everything.
Oh, you feel sick? Or these steroids will help.
Yeah, let's get your immune system up. Take this batch of steroids for the next 6 months.
Yeah, but you know, anybody who knows anything about steroids is that over long-term use, it tends to break down the tendons and cause long-term injuries.
Oh yeah, go to the VA for that. They'll take care of you.
Yeah, that's a funny one. Go to the VA. That's a whole joke in itself.
They'll see you in 6 to 8 months.
Yeah, 6 to 10 years.
Oh, you were a soldier that just came back from the war? All right. Well, you gotta wait 6 to 8 months.
Yeah. First, when you come in and tell them that you've got some sickness from the war, like, you know, your bad tendons or whatever, they're going to tell you that it actually you're not having that problem. It's all up in your head. You guys got to realize that until very recently, right after Desert Storm 1, our generation of soldiers, they denied every single soldier that applied for things like PTSD. They didn't even count PTSD as a disease. Right? They sent millions of soldiers to their death over that 200-year program, you know, 200-year lifespan of the VA to their deaths because they didn't even believe in PTSD.
Yeah, one of my friends, he came back from Afghanistan, and you know what they gave him is he didn't even see a doctor. He just told the VA his symptoms, and they mailed him like a 4-month supply, like stuff you can't do with a normal pharmacy. 4-month supply of gabapentin, painkillers, and antidepressants.
Yeah, I mean, it's way cheaper if you off yourself, which is what they're told.
Basically, basically they just hand you a bunch of pills and say deal with it.
It's one approach. The cheapest approach.
Yeah, just like they denied that Gulf War syndrome was a real thing, even though they were testing out the anthrax vaccine.
The anthrax vaccine and that depleted uranium reactive armor. So we sent back this first generation of tests. Now, most of the people that had Desert Storm sickness are dead. And the people that were what had happened was this: when the sand hit our new generation of armor, which is this depleted uranium armor, it powdered the uranium, and people were breathing in that depleted uranium, which is still radioactive, even though it's not considered a biological
That's why
weapon.
they call it depleted uranium, but it still has a little bit of radiation.
Right, and bad for you to breathe in dust form, as most things are. And they never thought that the sand would sandblast these vehicles.
Yeah,
and
the A-10's armor is the Warhog is full of depleted uranium, and a lot of the armor-piercing shells are made out of uranium.
And the people that were exposed to it from, you know, among other things, but you know, a lot of it was, and if you looked at it from their symptoms, they were definitely suffering from
radiation sickness.
Radiation sickness.
Yeah.
You would come in and say it, and they would deny that it weren't war sickness. They'd just tell you it didn't happen. But everybody that was here got this same sickness. Everybody that was here that was at this sandstorm next to these tanks got the same sickness or ammunition, and they just denied it.
Huh.
I mean, that hits kind of close to home because a lot of our friends from our family friends, when I was growing up in the military, you know, men that I respected and looked up to, they all ended up dying of storm sickness. And I mean, they were young men. You know, they weren't. You know, they died at 30, at 40. And at the end of the day, yeah, the VA treated them like shit, denied absolutely everything that they came in and complained of.
Huh.
And the sad part is they knew about it, right? They knew what caused it. They knew that it existed, and they denied it, all the way up until I think it's now the 10 years maybe that they've actually said, okay, Desert Storm sickness was real.
Yeah, they were denying people's disability benefits over it, you know?
Yeah, because the deal is it's a death sentence. So, you know, they just had to deny it for a couple of years. Once you're dead, your case is done.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Bastards. But yeah,
Size just healthcare.
unfortunately, we lost, several close family friends, and these were, I mean, real deal American heroes. You know, they were special forces and Rangers, people that were exposed to it, and they couldn't even talk about the places that they were exposed to it at.
Oh, yeah, I know.
DuPont.
Yeah. Ugh.
DuPont's a big one.
Yeah, they're one of the oldest American chemical/pharmaceutical companies.
/pharmaceutical companies. If we have to find something that doesn't kill you, we're hoping it treats something.
Well, I guess it's better than, Monsanto's chemical/food companies.
No, they're all bad. That's all of that is a bad idea.
Yeah, but
yeah, I remember being in Maryland near and like DuPont has like a real presence out there, you know.
Yeah. I've been out that way. I've seen all the DuPont factories and everything. Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah. But they don't have a DuPont factory where they're making food. I mean, in Monsanto. DuPont, you got to step up your game. Monsanto is poisoning people with food. You're only poisoning people with pharmaceuticals and the chemicals.
You don't want them to poison all those people before you do. Think of the profit margin.
Oh, guys, we got 5 minutes.
I guess that's a great way to end it.
This was a really good show. I'm so happy that that she came on. We've been really talking about that interview for such a long time.
Yeah. Let me see. Is there anything I missed?
We could go hours.
Let me see. Hawaii is trying to raise the smoking age to 100.
What?
Yeah, for real. They're trying to raise the smoking age to 100 by 2024. They want to raise it next year to 30 years old and 40 years old and every year, so on and so on until...
Are you sure that you're not reading The Onion?
No, it said Hawaii.
No, that's real.
It's real.
Yeah, I mean...
Oh my God.
This is coming from a Republican trying to push a bill through, but yeah, this is I don't think it'll ever pass, but somebody's actually trying to do it. Jade Helm exercises in Long Beach.
I look for cigarettes illegal eventually. I mean, they're going to have to make something illegal when they legalize weed. You look for them to immediately move to something else. They always do. We went from alcohol weed, move to tobacco. They'll be busting people for growing tobacco in their backyard. I guarantee you. You'll be buying an eighth from your boy, a fucking Marlboro's Finest.
Didn't pay your tax.
You did pay your tobacco tax.
Well, yeah.
no
Once they
tax
legalize, tobacco, it'll just be 18. Alcohol alcohol and firearms would just be AF.
Yeah. Boom, boom, boom. OTF. Oh, I bet you're not here for the alcohol and tobacco.
Yeah, I think, ATF has to be one of the joke administrations because they deal with alcohol and tobacco. So they're going after people that are growing their own tobacco and making their own alcohol.
Oh yeah, go out to Tennessee and see if they won't bust you for growing a couple of tobacco plants in your backyard.
It's not tobacco, man. It's weed.
Oh, no, that's the deal. Like, they bust you for tobacco.
Oh yeah. Look at the DEA.
Yeah, their DEA is another joke administration because now they're reviewing a lot of the substances that they had legalized, so much so that a lot of them are found out to have medicinal purposes, so much so that Colorado is trying to propose a bill to legalize medicinal use of psilocybin mushrooms, mainly for MDD or major depression disorder or cluster headaches.
I can't wait to get my medical grade cocaine.
Well, the DEA just basically when they put something in a Schedule 1, they say that has no medical purpose. They have reversed it several times. They reversed it for cannabis, GHB, and even stuff that doesn't even make sense on their scheduling because methamphetamine is both a Schedule 1 and a Schedule 2. So a lot of the stuff that goes on in the DEA, in my view, is just a bunch of fear mongering, and
well, besides heroin, we should never legalize heroin.
But in essence, the stuff that's out in the pharmaceuticals is almost as equivalent,
That's true.
Like, sure. To be honest, there's certain there's certain things where it's all like the drugs that they're giving you. It's like, I'd rather be somebody. It's easier to get off a heroin addiction than it is to get off of opiates, right? To get off of OxyContin. Not the fucking patch that they put people on. Just give them meth. You know what I mean? Like,
whoa.
On is more addictive, better chance of fucking OD. Like what?
It's got a minute and a half.
Uh-oh. All right, yeah. Thanks to all of our listeners, as always, for tuning in.
Don't forget to spam
sharing.
All politicians.
Yeah. Sharing is caring.
And we'll be back next Thursday at 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. And I think we'll roll out with the credits.
Delete Facebook.
Delete Facebook.
All right, there we go.
I hereby declare this to be an unlawful assembly.